Woot. Why is my... That's super weird.
Let me
Oh, there we go.
update our stream information.
Oh, yeah. I guess I could. We live, bitch. Um, hello, everyone. We're live. We're not just standing here being weird for no reason.
Okay, that should be updated.
We're trying to let all of you know on Instagram, whenever you eventually migrate your way over here, that we are live in action.
You know how we do things here. We always gotta have a little bit of
We have the millennial pause at the beginning of everything.
correct. Am I? Hold on. Yeah, we're live. Right? Okay. There we go. Okay.
Also, we both had a pretty tough week. We're both not feeling very well for different reasons, so bear with us,
It's
okay?
it's rough, y'all. It's real rough.
It is. It
But
definitely is.
we're here. We are ready to discuss uh Fourth Wing. Can't
Yes.
wait.
Yes, we are.
Um,
We certainly are ready. Apparently, sort of, maybe.
kind of. Okay.
Oh, I guess I should take the picture. Picture for the gram. I'm gonna hold up the fucking.
Cool.
There we go.
Cool.
Oh, I should have like made the picture bigger, but it's okay.
I totally did not just drop my phone. Oops.
Oh,
Y'all.
I said we are. I said we are live. I said
Oops.
this is my mental capacity right now. I said we are life instead of we are live. Oh my god. Okay, Alexis. My goodness gracious.
Not me cracking my stupid phone screen protector
What?
again. I'm so tired.
You're just watching our downfall
God.
in real time.
Is January over yet? I'm ready. I'm
Bro,
ready.
January. I saw this meme that said, "Why does every January make you feel every 31 days?"
Yes. For literally.
And it's so accurate. Like, yes, you are correct. It certainly
Every
does make you feel every freaking 31, every single day of those
single
31
day.
days.
Oh my gosh. And this January has been January-er than most.
No, bro.
Oh my god. Hello to Spooky Penguin and Leslie M. Johnson. Welcome.
Hi, Leslie. Hello.
Welcome to the shit show, you guys.
Yeah, my friend that joined is Leslie, and she has literally been on and off sick too, so she feels our pain.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm. It's rough. Rachel, how far are you in Onyx Storm, by the way? Rachel is Spooky Penguin, by the way. How far
Oh,
did you
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
into
I think I
Onyx
remember that.
Storm? Um,
Hi, Tony.
oh, hello, Tony.
Waiting for Rachel's reply because I want to know what her initial thoughts are
I
before
know.
we get
I
started.
want to know if it's worth it.
I know. I've heard I've heard a mix of emotions. I've heard that I haven't heard anything bad is but also I've been trying to stay away from most of the spoilers just because of me not even finished with freaking Fourth Wing reread, but
Yeah.
so I've been trying to stay away from it for the most part, but I have heard the worst complaint is that it starts off really boring.
I think that's what Rachel said too, was that she had trouble getting into it and then it got good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
It said we had like 6 people and now it says one, but we were literally just talking to these 3 people. What happened?
Uh, where'd where'd you guys go? Come back.
Weird.
They
Baby,
saw
come
the
back.
shit show and they were like, you know what?
They're like, actually, we'll go
Actually,
ahead and just let them. Let's try again. Let's
yeah.
let's rejoin in a few
Let's
minutes.
regroup.
They're real for that. So I will go ahead and kick us off. Now that my life is like sort of together.
Go for it. I'm
Um.
trying to get back into my main Twitch account on my
Oh,
phone.
geez.
It's fine. All right, yeah, go ahead. Kick us off.
All right, I'll kick us off. So last stream, last week,
Mhm.
um, we talked all about book talk. We talked about the good, talked about the bad, talked about the ugly, and we talked about all the good that it's done for the community and the industry, and then we talked about the bad that it's done for like readers and just quality, like fast publishing. So we had a really good discussion. We had actually a new follower and a new guest. We don't know who it was, but I think it was like Kitty Katie something. If
Mhm.
if they're here again, hello. Welcome back if you are here. And that kind of led us into some good conversations too. So hey, Dad. And
Hi, Dad.
so so yeah, so it was a good time, and I think we had like a really good conversation, and I really hope that some of my Bookstagram friends went and checked it out. To
Mhm.
review our socials, so we probably have a TikTok account, but I deleted TikTok after
So did I.
everything happened. Well, first of all, I take it on and off my phone anyways. And so when I heard about the ban, I was like, oh, I don't use it regardless, really.
Mhm.
And I've been forgetting to put the clips up there. So might as well just delete it now.
Yeah.
And then they were like, LOL, it's back. And I was like, well, too late because I
Well,
don't even think I can download it on the App Store anymore. So rip our TikTok.
it's fine. That's what reels are for. God.
Yeah, so I guess at this point, maybe that just means we need to start investing time and putting more clips on Instagram and Reels, and maybe like actually uploading our stuff onto YouTube. What Jess said she's trying to have up by the end of this month, but
Yes.
we'll give her some extra time since he's been sick. We gotta let
Yeah.
the recovery time. So the Paperback Cowgirls on Insta is also like Twitch, and then Paperback Cowgirls. Oh, the same thing.
Mhm.
If for YouTube as well. So that's just kind of our review, and all that is down, and I think in like our bio stuff on Twitch. And so to announce today's stream, as we kind of talked about last week, and kind of got into it a little bit towards the end because we love tangents here at Paperback Cowgirls. Today we're going to discuss Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. You don't know what book that is, the one that's open on my desk.
Are you
It
under
is
a
this
rock?
one. This one. And it is by Rebecca Yarros. And Onyx Storm came out this Tuesday, which was the 21st.
Mhm.
That is the third out of 5 of the Empyrean series, and had
Crazy.
a lot of mixed anticipation. So Jess and I have not read it yet, so
Mm.
we're not going to talk about Onyx Storm yet. We're going to let everybody kind of get through it, including ourselves.
Mhm.
But we figured what's useful is, and a lot of people's shipments of Onyx Storm have been delayed. So I just got mine when it
Oh,
was supposed to get
interesting.
here on Wednesday. Some people's don't get them until this weekend. So in all reality, most people, if they haven't reread Fourth Wing, haven't read Fourth Wing at all,
Mhm.
or if they're maybe in the midst of rereading it like we are, we figured why not kind of provide that recap in that time, leading up to everybody finally getting Onyx Storm and actually reading it and processing it and seeing how they feel and kind of seeing what the reviews start looking like.
Mhm.
Um, Rachel said that hers came on time,
Oh
so
wow.
that's good. Only a few
Yeah.
people's did. Mine was only delayed by a day or two, which is fine. So I wasn't mad about it.
I'm
I still was rereading this, so
I'm curious. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that like the weather maybe had something to do with the delays versus like coming from the publisher might have been a problem. we'll give it to them. We'll say it's the weather.
There's a lot going on. I mean, there's snow in Louisiana, fires in California. There was 2
Snow in
hurricanes
Florida.
like 3 months ago. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
snow in Florida,
Mhm.
negative temperatures in Indiana. Like, we're all just
We're all going through it.
surviving right now. The world's just going through it
Yes.
right now, guys. But
Also,
yeah, so Jess, do
um,
you have anything else before we kick it off?
the only thing I was gonna say is, as always, this is not gonna be a spoiler-free zone. And all opinions are our own. If you feel differently, that's fine. Good for you. Feel free to share your opinions, your thoughts, your comments with us. And that's all I got.
Okay.
Mhm.
Looks like Rachel said Amazon did my friend dirty and they canceled hers with no notice because they sold out. Like, what was the pre-order for then? She had to
What?
sort it out because she called customer service, but yeah, I think I heard about somebody that
Wow.
happening to somebody else, and it's like, isn't the pre-order so then you know how many to make?
Right. Right. Like I pre-ordered this. What do you mean you've sold out? Oh
That
my
part.
god.
That part.
Also,
I mean,
Rachel,
let me make sure.
I don't know if you heard
Oh, go
me
ahead.
earlier, but I was asking what your thoughts were on Onyx Storm. I don't know if Rachel heard me earlier. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. I was like, "Oh, you're active in the chat again. Let's just like I want to
We're
know what to like brace myself for, and I want to know if I should try to get it like through a library or if I should actually like spend my money for a copy. Because I've done that. I've done that for Fourth Wing, and I did that for Iron Flame, and I regretted both of them, and I got rid of both of them. And then Alexis sent me her copy of Iron Flame so I can read it for next week. So I'm just gonna keep spending
I
my
mean,
money and getting rid of these books over and over
if I
again.
can speed read through this fast enough, I'll mail it to you. You just have to promise to mail it back.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Onyx Storm. Um, she says, I'm like 5 chapters in, and I feel like I should have reread the other two first. I'm a little bit lost, but I think I'm coming around. Okay, so then this stream might be good for you. We'll see. Yeah, yeah.
Woo!
There we go.
Useful.
Useful. We actually
We're
were doing
here
something.
for you. This is a Rachel specific stream dedicated
We're
to
like this.
you. Yeah, I'm really hoping that like us sharing this on Bookstagram too,
Mhm.
that anybody who also like is waiting for their Onyx Storm copy is like, let me hop in on
Mhm.
this stream so I can maybe get a little like Spark Note, but paperback girl edition.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
She said, "Thank
Oh
you,
my god,
thank you." Oh
fave
my god, my
streamer.
fave streamers.
Stop.
She said, "Remember me when you hit it big." So,
Oh my god.
as just said, we are obviously not a spoiler-free zone. So, for anyone who maybe is here that hasn't read Fourth Wing, we can go ahead and give a little brief summary I pulled off of Goodreads. So, if you don't know what it's about, maybe this will gauge your interest.
Mhm.
And then we can go ahead and kick off kind of like our thoughts and kind of just like what happened in the book. Um, so the summary via Goodreads was enter the brutal and elite world of a war college for dragon riders. 20-year-old, oh my god, it's so young. Woo, 20-year-old Violet Soaringale was supposed to enter the scribe quadrant, living a quiet life among books and history. Now, the commanding general, also known as her toughest Talon's mother, I didn't know that it said that. That's kind of funny. Has ordered Violet to join the hundreds of candidates striving to become the elite of Navarre dragon riders. But when you're smaller than everyone else and your body is brittle, death is only a heartbeat away because dragons don't bond to fragile humans, they incinerate them. With fewer dragons willing to bond than cadets, most would kill Violet to better their own chances of success, and the rest would kill her just for being her mother's daughter, especially like Zayden Ryerson, the most powerful and ruthless wing leader in the Riders Quadrant. She'll need every edge her wits can give her just to see the next sunrise. Yet with every day that passes, The war outside grows more deadly, the kingdom's protective wards are failing, and the death toll continues to rise. Even worse, Violet begins to suspect leadership is hiding a terrible secret. Friends, enemies, lovers, everyone at Basgiath War College has an agenda because once you enter, there are only two ways out: graduate or die. And that is the
Mhm.
synopsis of Fourth Wing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, for context, I feel like we should talk about Rebecca Yarros and like
Yes.
her background,
Yeah.
which we've kind of touched on before. Um, but I feel like we should talk about it in more depth because I feel like that'll kind of give context as to why Fourth Wing is like not ever going to be in the same category as like a Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
Um, so I think by the time Fourth Wing was published in check. Let me double check. I want to say it's 2021, but it might be later than that.
I think it's 22.
It might be 22. Hold on. Where are you? Oh, we are both wrong. 2023.
God
So by the time
damn.
I know she's published three of these things by
Oh
2025.
my
That's crazy.
god.
Yeah.
See, I said
So her
2022 and I was like, I think it's more recent. That's crazy.
yes. So 2023. By the time this
Mhm.
was published, Rebecca Yarros had been published for I think minimum 10 years. And I want to say no, she'd been writing for longer, but maybe published for about 10 years and 9 books or something like that. I think that's kind of what I remember reading off of her website like a really long time ago. I can fact check myself because, I'm not going to be like some of these people out here that just say stuff to say stuff. Um, Let me see. I think it's on her website. She's only 43.
Oh my god, she is
Um,
cranking.
see more. Okay, so she's been writing since I see 2015 on here at 2014. So that's
11 years
11
ish.
years. So think 2 years ago. So yeah, 9 years. So
Mhm.
she'd been published for about 9 years and I think had only written around the same amount of books. However, they were romance books, primarily romance, military romance books, which is not a very big genre at all. It's definitely a smaller subcategory of the romance
Mhm.
category. Um,
She was told write
didn't
what you know and then just ran with that for a very long time.
Yes. And I think because of her extensive background with association to the military, so even though she is not in, her dad was in, her husband was in, and then I feel like she had a couple other relatives that were also in as well. That's pretty much a lot of what she knows. And when you're a military wife, especially like a military wife who's trying to become a writer, like you spend a lot of time by yourself. So, granted, she had kids. Like, they have a ton of kids together. I think they've adopted a few and fostered a few, and I think she had a few or something like that. So, I mean, they have like 5 or 6 kids or something. But I mean, you're talking your main way to make money was probably sitting down and writing while your
Mhm.
husband was on like a deployment,
Mhm.
while your kids are at school. So, she wrote what she knew, which was falling in love with a person who was in the military
Yeah.
and what her, parents did. Which, was it kind of cool to see that like being a subcategory of romance? Yes, kind of, but also like, oh, not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So if that gives you any inclination of what her background was, it was not fantasy. But according to Rebecca Yarros, in many interviews, she has mentioned that she has absolutely always wanted to publish a fantasy book. She wasn't like a super, super, super popular author. So what like possessed, I guess, her publishing company to be like, you want to write a random fantasy book on like a very small indie publishing company,
Mhm.
mostly known for romance, like smut books? Go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know where that like whole plot line opened up, but that's what happened. So by 2023, she publishes Fourth Wing, and it blows up. Blows up.
Mhm.
That at one point you couldn't even find it anywhere, probably because this company didn't think that it would do that. They probably published enough copies based off of what she had sold before.
Mhm.
But Book Talk found it, and Book Talk ran with it.
Yes. Um,
So
I want to
yeah.
say real quick. So previously, Rebecca Yarros was published under just I think Entangled Publishing, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then with the release of Fourth Wing, Red Tower Publishing was created, which is like an imprint of Entangled Publishing. And so now Red Tower Publishing has also done like Assistant to the Villain. They've done let's see. They're really big on like this kind of like quick book talk manufactured like romantasy genre um books lately. So I think that's their biggest one, Assistant to the Villain, and then its sequel, and then Fourth Wing. They've got Bloodguard, the games, God's Play, Heavenbreaker. So lots of up and coming, like fantasy romantasy, but was mostly kicked off with Fourth Wing. So it is crazy
Mm-hmm.
what one book can do if it gets enough traction.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it
Rachel
literally
says
changed.
Rachel says she hated Heavenbreaker. Don't recommend. Got it. You heard it here
I've never
first.
read that. What book is that?
Um,
Heavenbreaker.
let's see. Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolf.
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Oh Lord.
Oh, not me having that book in a box somewhere. I haven't read it yet though.
Okay, well, don't read it. Apparently,
Oh shoot.
it's like
It's sci-fi.
interesting.
Yeah, so this company publishes like the most random stuff. Like they definitely do not have what is the word? Like
Like a
a niche,
niche.
niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they publish an abundance of things clearly.
Mhm.
Um to confirm, Rebecca Yarros did begin writing while her husband was deployed.
Okay.
And as of October 2023, she and her husband do have 6 kids.
Jesus. A
Her
lot of
sons
parents.
have her sons, I think were hers, but her daughter they fostered then adopted. But I don't know if she has 5 sons and one daughter, or if she's got another daughter at all. I would have to like look deeper into that, but
Okay.
relevant but not.
Mhm.
Um, but she does have, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's EDS, so Ehlers-Danlos syndrome,
That would make
and it's
sense.
a group of 13 genetic connective tissue disorders. So often involves like you having loose joints, joint pain, very like stretchy, velvety skin, random scar formation, and I think you have like a lot of just like chronic pain. Like you're just always
Mhm.
kind of getting hurt or just always kind of hurting. Which is relevant because that's what inspired her to write Violet the way that she did,
Mhm.
which is the main character of Fourth Wing, if you did not know. And so yeah, that's kind of just the background. Do you think that there's anything else worth noting? I guess.
I don't think so. I will say I did not know that she also had EDS, so that's super
Mhm.
interesting. Like I said again, she writes what she knows, so it's super interesting that she like wrote that into Fourth Wing as well. So
It
interesting.
goes to show you how differently people get their inspiration from stuff.
Mhm.
Like Stephanie Meyer had a dream about the meadow scene for Twilight,
Mhm.
and Rebecca Yarros literally wrote about her life in a fantasy land. Like, but
Oh.
like with a much different character and like a much different vision, I guess, you know?
Right, right. Um Real quick, Rachel says that she and her brother found Heavenbreaker and Five Broken Blades at Costco and we're going to read one and then switch. And she got stuck with Heavenbreaker. And the audiobook is the only thing that saved it, which hilarious. Thank you for recommending us to not check that out. Sorry.
I'm glad. It's interesting that sometimes the audiobook saves stuff.
Yeah, It's also like you can speed it faster, so you get through it a lot quicker too, and you could do
Yes,
other
but it's like
things
if
and
it's
like
kind of bad.
sitting and reading it, And
And
then yeah,
yes, her sons have it, which I think she had all of her sons biologically.
so that would make sense.
Which also kind of leads me to the question of, it's genetic. But we're not going to criticize that too much
I
further
mean,
than that.
yeah, that doesn't stop most people,
No,
unfortunately.
not at all. I mean, it's obviously something you can live with,
Right.
but
Yeah. Not
more
once, but
difficult.
5 times.
Yeah,
You think?
I think it's all. I think all five of. I think she has five sons and one daughter. Like I'm almost positive.
Mhm.
But not 100% sure. But she does donate like a lot of her money and stuff to charities for like foster care, and
Oh,
has a
Stan.
lot of involvement with that. And then I think she has a lot of involvement, of course, with probably like military families and stuff. So I mean, overall, Rebecca Yarros seems like
Mhm. Okay.
pretty decent person, like overall,
Slay Queen, go off.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not mad at her.
Mm-mm.
Um, so yeah, that's just a little bit of a background. It also kind of shows you, kind of like Jess was saying, once one book takes off, just the trajectory that can just take your
Mhm.
life in a whole other direction than you were expecting.
Mhm.
She ended up getting contract for 5 of these books, which I guess would technically be at the time 4 more.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, whoever's idea was it to take Fourth Wing to Book Talk and hope that helped her. I mean,
Yep.
it skyrocketed her other romance books. So
I talk about this a little bit more later, but since we're kind of on this subject, just really quickly, it also I think has kind of like reinvigorated slash created the rise of romantasy, like the new genre, I guess, as well as like dragons back in fantasy and like mainstream fantasy books has been really cool to see. So like crazy, man. One book.
I'm so glad this one didn't have anything to do with fae or fairies. I'm so sick.
Mm-hmm. Done with
I'm
face
so
smut.
sick.
Give me dragons.
I'm so sick.
Mm-hmm.
No, I definitely am glad. And Rachel was like, yeah, 100% Fourth Wing got me into fantasy
Mm-hmm.
romantasy. And that happened for a lot of people. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people either had ACOTAR or they had Fourth Wing or like a little bit of both
Yeah.
and got back into that genre or into the genre in general.
Yeah. Same.
Um,
But yeah, I
so
think
just
we're good to
no,
go.
go ahead.
That's all I was gonna say. I think we're good to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think to start, um, just to make it known, Jess does not love Fourth Wing.
Nope. Nope.
As
It's
the individual book, we won't even talk about the rest of the series. As the
mm-hmm.
individual book, she did not love Fourth Wing. As the individual book, I love Fourth Wing.
Mm-hmm.
Some might even say hate.
Some might be correct.
But okay, so genuine question. Do you feel like in the reread and kind of like what we've been talking about over the course since we started the stream in October, do you feel like when you kind of approach Fourth Wing for what it is, which is like very entry level, young adult fantasy, did you feel like you hated it a little bit less, even though that still doesn't mean that you enjoyed it?
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like that kind of changed your perspective when you reread it and you were like, okay, I'm not going to read this like this is Game of Thrones and this is, what's his name? George R.
George R. R. Martin.
Martin.
Yeah.
Martin, yeah. Like you approached it like, okay, this is Rebecca Yarros, romance writer. Like,
I kind of think it was the opposite. So like
really?
I will fully admit when I first started reading Fourth Wing for like the very first time, right? I got swept up in the hype with everybody else. I think you had read it and really enjoyed it. I can't remember if Rachel read it first or like we were starting to read it around the same time or something like that. And she was really enjoying it. I was like, all right, well, now I have FOMO, so now I gotta go buy the book that everybody's talking about. And at first, I really enjoyed it. I was flying through it. I was like, I get it. This has all of the things that we loved about the books that we enjoyed in like middle school, high school, maybe even in like early college. And I was really enjoying it. And then I don't know what happened, but about halfway through, it's like my frontal lobe developed and I started to think about the book and
Oh
it
my
started to
god.
fall apart. And I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I happened to like put it down for like a day or two and then went back to it and I just like lost that momentum maybe. And I was like, wait, not a lot of this is not making sense now that I'm thinking about it. And then I managed to get through the rest of it, and like the ending was, enjoyable. The plot twist, I didn't see coming, and that kind of got me. And then again, I put it down and I started thinking about it, and I was like, I don't, I don't get it. I, and again, I understand the hype. It got so many people back into it. Like this was a lot of people's ACOTAR. Um, it's like I get that aspect of it, but coming from like unfortunately a critical thinking standpoint, I'm like it falls apart when you think about it too hard. And so that's why I don't like it. And we're going to get into that. But it's I and even on a reread, it it was just kind of like annoying cuz like I knew what was going to happen and it still didn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
to me. And I'm just reading, I'm like, I don't know why we're doing this. I don't know why this is mentioned. I don't know why this was done this way. So what I wish had happened, and like no, especially knowing she's coming from a strictly like contemporary military romance style, I really wish she had been given a fantasy editor or like a fantasy agent or like somebody in this genre that could have like taken her by the hand and said, "You've got a lot of great ideas, great things going on. You just need a little bit of work within this genre. So let's do it together and we can make it great." I think it needed a couple more rounds of edits and needed somebody to ask her more questions about like world building, character development, relationship development. She needed to kill a lot of her darlings. We're introduced to people who die the next page. I'm like, there's no reason for that. They do nothing. Um, I'll get more into that later. But like, it was a lot of that. And I was like, it suffered from the lack of a good fantasy editor, and I think that's what upsets me more than anything. It's like it has a lot of the marks of a really good dystopian fantasy novel. Like middle school me would have eaten this shit up, right? It's like that's why I'm upset. It's like it could have been so good. It just didn't have that like champion for her in this genre that she needed. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at on that. It's like I don't hate it to hate it. I hate it because it had promise.
Yeah. And so, okay, so on the other side of that, but also kind of within the same realm.
Mhm.
So I love Fourth Wing.
Mhm.
Rereading it was a really fun experience when I didn't have lifing in the background. But I feel like my 5-star review of it now is more of a reflection of my own personal love and like seeing myself in it
Mhm.
more than the quality of it.
Mhm.
I feel like when I do read it, I'm like, okay, this is a book that her publishing company was like, sure, write a fantasy. This is gonna do the exact same as the rest of your books, whatever.
Mhm.
And then when it went full stream, or like it made mainstream media and like it got super popular and stuff, I felt like they were like, oh, okay, we
Mhm.
can make money off this. And so they told her, okay, cool, like write more, blah blah blah. So she does. And so I feel like my feelings, which I'm in total agreement with you about the fantasy editor, I think by the time they realized that this was going to make them money and they were going to continue with their momentum, that to um they were going to then invest in a fantasy editor minimum by book 2, because even like in book um yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Even by book, like most fantasy books for book 1 are definitely like your intro ones, so you're usually supposed to leave with a lot of questions, and then typically by the time you get to book two, you
Mhm.
start to get some more information and some more of like kind of the tying together.
Mhm.
So I think I had the expectation that I would be a little bit confused. Like look at Akatar, for example, which not that that's
Sure.
like amazing, but or even look at Divergent or Hunger Games. I feel like less complicated when it comes to like Divergent or Hunger Games because you don't have like these like spiritual religion system built into those
Mhm.
kind of things.
Mhm.
But you did get some kind of context, but you still left the first one like, why are we doing these games? Who did this? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Oh, she's never
Sure.
gonna have to do these again. And then by
Sure.
book two, it was like, oh, we're finding out more. Oh, there's tea. Oh, there's a whole rebellion going on we didn't know about. And so I feel like I think with that in mind, it kind of reminded me not to have these like very strong standards, I guess, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
But I definitely share your feelings that you have towards this one with fourth with Iron Flame, I mean,
Mm.
which I'll definitely get into more with
Next
that
week.
one. But I 100% agree that if you were not going to invest in a fantasy editor with book 2 because or with book 1 because it was kind of just like you thought it was just gonna be like a fluke, like, oh, she's gonna
Mhm.
write this fantasy book, get out of our system, whatever, okay. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, no, she's gonna end up writing more. There definitely should have been one after book
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I almost kind of I really am interested to know like how the process of Fourth Wing happened because I almost wish it would have happened with like when a self-pub author gets really big on social media and then they get picked up for traditional publishing. Often they'll go through another round or two of like developmental edits and then
Mm.
like a re-release, right? Not always, but often. So I kind of wish that it would have kind of happened with that where it's like, oh, they saw that this was getting big, let's pull it, do a round of edits, and then do like a big like re-release, and then that could have like kickstarted the series.
That would have been a really good idea, actually. I think that would have cleaned up a lot of her really good ideas into
Mm-hmm.
something that she could actually
Build
build
on.
off of and
Exactly.
have several quality ideas rather than a million and one
Mid
plot
ideas.
lines that
Yeah.
she can maybe explore or not explore more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Jess had a good idea that before we kind of go into the elements of what we liked and disliked and kind of just general thoughts of the book, we've kind of given a lot of background and just our overall thoughts. So we can get into more of like the nitty gritty, I guess, of the storyline because this is a recap. Um, so let me open my handy dandy 420 book.
I figure, especially if we
Um,
got Rachel here who's looking for a refresher.
yeah, that's true.
This is for you, Rachel.
So So I'll go ahead and kick off, and I guess in this too, we should probably talk about some of the theories, which definitely incorporate kind of a little bit into Iron Flame. But these books have been out for a little while, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll just kind of assume spoiler warning. So the book starts off with the message that says the following text has been faithfully transcribed from Navarian into the modern language by Yesenia Neilwart, curator of the Scribe Quadrant at Basgayath War College. All events are true, and names have been preserved to honor the courage of those fallen. May their souls be commended to, I guess, Malik.
Which, who is Malik?
Who the hell's
Does he
Malik?
matter? Does he ever really come up again? Do the gods play any part in this? No. We'll get into that.
Who is Malik? Do we
Who
know?
knows?
All you know is you're supposed to burn personal effects after somebody dies
Mm-hmm.
for this guy,
Mm-hmm.
whoever he is.
He's the god of the dead, which there's gods. Okay. Do they play any part? Nope.
And we only learn about a couple. Like
Yeah.
I think one other one is mentioned when she's talking to Taryn after they bond,
Mm-hmm.
which is her main dragon. And it's like the god of something in war, and then Metlik is the god of dead,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think there might
Amari.
be a couple more. Amari, I think, is the one of war.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost positive, and then there might be one more, and then that's it. And then the dragon, literally, like Taryn,
Yeah.
he literally diminishes
Mhm.
the whole point of these gods existing
Yeah.
because he's like, oh well, dragons don't adhere to that anyways.
Mhm. So it's like, so okay. So we know nothing about your religion anyway, except there's apparently a god of death who you guys have to burn the things of the dead for, but then they mean nothing to the dragons.
And you
Which
have
is
to
great
read
because
it
they mean
when
nothing to me
you
too.
and you have to read it in the concept of like when they read the scroll, the death roll,
Mhm.
they say may all their souls be commended to Malik. But
Mhm.
who, why are we saying
Why?
that?
Mhm.
Like, is
Who
Violet
knows?
herself not religious? Or like we have no
Who knows?
clue.
I do hope. I hope within Onyx Storm and then like the next two, maybe the gods will play a bigger part, like Rachel says. Maybe. I doubt
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
maybe.
Rachel's saying with the ending of Iron Flame that like them playing. I really I could see it. Like maybe, like but like also like do these gods exist? You know, or like are they just like what we would call God singular is just like this
Right.
entity
Is that just their belief system?
in heaven,
Mhm.
or because at one point
Do
like
any gods
didn't they
exist?
believe that gods themselves like existed on Earth?
Yeah.
Like when like in like the multiple gods systems, you're talking like ancient Greece and
Right.
all these ancient times. Like didn't they believe in a capacity at one point like these gods lived on Earth and then eventually moved on,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then humans at one point in different areas worshipped them? Like you're the god of the sun and the god of the rain or water or whatever, and it like affected how you farmed. Like there was all
Mhm.
these concepts. is,
Yeah.
is that what we believe
Yeah.
now? Like,
Who knows? Yeah.
and then there's the theory that all five Imperium books are going to be stories written about majority of our main characters possibly being dead by
Which
Yesenia, which is Violet's friend.
which makes sense. I mean, with that inscription being like, I've recorded the stories and may their souls be commended. Like, that makes a lot of sense that they would not survive the events of the books. We'll see, but that would
That'd
make
be
a lot of
crazy.
sense.
Didn't
That
somebody say like
I
isn't that
would.
pulling a Divergent or something? Isn't that what Divergent did?
I'm gonna be honest. I never finished the Divergent series, so I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, that's right. I forgot. I
I don't
forgot. I
know.
forgot.
I will. I will say if Rebecca Yarros pulls that, that's kind of cool. That's cool. I'll give that to her. She got to do that first.
You're like for a romance writer, that was smart, Loki.
Yeah, military romance.
Plot,
Damn, pop off.
major plot twist. Everyone is actually
Everyone's
dead.
dead.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Yesenia out
she
of the Scribe
she
Cruncher is the
cooked.
only one we know that's existing still. Okay.
Double plot twist. What if everyone is dead? And like Yesenia like starts the new or like as part of the new like world or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yo, I'm not gonna cap. I low key feel like Violet's dad's gonna come back,
I could see that. I could see that.
or we're gonna find out that somebody we know killed him.
Mm, my bet's on the mom.
Me too.
Mm.
The dick.
She gives vibes. Alexis grew up religious. A little bit.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic.
Where are you going with this, Rachel?
She's
I'm
like, Alexis
really
thinks about this kind
curious.
of deeply.
Mm-hmm,
That was my reconstruction of me leaving the Catholic Church and
oh.
deconstructing and then reconstructing
Reconstructing.
what my faith looked like. Don't mind me. I'm just having nothing but existential crisis
It's fine.
over here.
Just while we're on the subject, I guess I grew up like in and out of like very minimal religion, and then I hit high school and I was like, nah, it's fine, I'm good.
It'd be like that, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own journeys, our own
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah,
We're all
it's
just
fine.
here.
Yeah, and you know what? I love and support you no matter what you do or don't believe in. It's all good.
Yeah, just be a good human
Whatever.
being. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Whatever
Even
gets you
if
through the day.
even Malik, even though he don't know who he is. So while Rachel's trying to collect her thoughts, you're
Mhm.
also introduced to this map Well, okay, first off, you're introduced to this map, which is the map of the continent that they apparently all live in.
Mhm.
So, fun fact I just read on Wikipedia that apparently not only did Rebecca Yarros study English in college, but she also was apparently a European history major. So I think that's why this kind of looks like the England, like United Kingdom vibe,
That would make
like Wales
sense.
and Scotland and stuff. I feel like that's what the vibes that the continent gives me.
Let's see.
And
Can
it
I?
breaks it. Go ahead.
I was say, go ahead. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the map, the Fourth Wing map.
Oh yeah. So it kind of just breaks down, and if Jess can pull it up, it just breaks down like the area, and it points out where Beth's Gaiath is actually located, um, in within like the kingdom of Navarre, and then there's the Pomorio Kingdom, which is on the other side of these mountains called the Espin Mountains, and then there's the Barrens, which I forgot where that what that was again, and then there is the Ayakabos River, I think, and then it marks a few of the cities, and I believe there's seven, no, six provinces. I think I highlighted it too. One, two, three,
And then she's here in
four.
Navarre, and then here's Basgiath.
Yeah, so I think there's six provinces within the Navarre Kingdom, and then the Borromeo. Probably completely butchering these. This girl
Mhm.
Rebecca said throw all the random letters together and make them the names of stuff.
And then
Um,
also, yeah.
then there's the Emerald Sea to the north, the Arctile Ocean to the south, and it's like a big giant island essentially. So no context on whether or not there is like a world outside of all of this.
Mhm.
Don't think they know. One thing about Fourth Wing that you definitely have to keep in mind is that Violet is our first point of view narrator, and she is a 20-year-old girl.
She's an
So
idiot.
she is very book smart.
Yes.
We did to a bit street dumb.
Yeah.
That's okay though.
That's okay.
But she like I don't we don't know. Like we don't know if there's life outside of this continent
Mhm.
or like what the world looks like. Majority of what their perspective is purely about what's going on this continent specifically.
Mhm.
So just so you know, like world view kind of small.
Mhm.
Um, then there's the map of the Best Guy at War College, which gives you a breakdown of like where the fields are, where the gauntlet is, where the flight field is at, where the quadrants are. There are four quadrants. There's the healers, infantry, scribe, and riders. And if you're familiar with military terms like I am, you can equate that to essentially like a branch or an MOS, essentially. And they break it down by like where the normal dorms are, where the first years usually are, where they eat, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's like exactly what I'm looking at. So majority of our story is definitely going to take place in between like the top part of the building and like towards the right, which is the flight field and the gauntlet and stuff. And then the only other part that we really would see obviously would be the scribe quadrant because that's what Violet was originally supposed to go into.
Cool.
So do you kind of want to take us into how the story starts?
Sure. I can do that.
Okay.
So, we open. Uh, I will also say, let's start with this, I guess. The beginning of each chapter has uh, different quotes that you come to find out are either from like the Dragon Riders Codex, which is like a set of rules or like a book of law or something like that that they're supposed to follow, or the Book of Brennan, or different like treaties and papers and things like that from within this world, which is a really cool aspect. I did like that. So, chapter one starts with the quote almost everybody knows: a dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without their dragon is dead. Article 1, Section 1, the Dragon Riders Codex. And then chapter 1, conscription day is always the deadliest. Maybe that's why the sunrise is especially beautiful this morning, because I know it might be my last. That's a pretty sick opening line. So basically, you find out that Violet Sorrengail, who is our main character, is entering what they call the writer's quadrant. So in this world, there's the infantry, scribe, healer, and then writer's quadrant. And then you basically kind of like a divergent, you go into one of these 4 sections. So she comes from a scribe quadrant background, which is like history, note taking, research, things like that. Her mother is, what is she? Commander something?
He's the general.
Thank you. General Sorrengail hates her basically and says, "You're not going to go into the scribe quadrant. You're going to be a writer or you're going to die trying." So she finds herself without any training, without any sort of practice or anything, on this day, which is like the day where they go into this faction, this quadrant. She's with her sister Mira, who sneaks this Book of Brennan, which is a book written by their brother, who was also a dragon rider who was dead, which is basically all of the notes and secret things in like about how to survive being a writer. So Mira gives her the book, kind of gives her a little bit of advice on how to survive this first task as she enters the quadrant, and then you kind of go from there. The first thing that they have to do before they even get into the writer's quadrant is cross the parapet. You find out very, very quickly that it is life or death, very cutthroat. Everybody's trying to kill you and everybody else for no reason. Nobody shows you any mercy, and you cross or you fall. Let's see really quick what Rachel says. Specifically on commending their souls to Malik, I think a lot of religions care deeply about the soul and where it goes when we die. Reading that in Fourth Wing just kind of gave me the impression of like rest in peace or giving a blessing or something so that their souls can be saved. It seems ritualistic, so that was kind of how I thought about it. I think that makes sense.
It's giving a little pagan.
A little pagan. Yeah. Also, you're totally fine. I get you. I think that makes sense. I guess when it's not put into that kind of context, I guess, but that's also like, you're reading between the lines, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that makes sense because he's the god of the dead. It's
right.
Just like what role does
Yeah, is there anything specific?
What role is this in this larger system?
Right.
Which kind of is weird as heavy info dumping of world building that Rebecca Yarros likes to do. But it for sure makes sense. Like especially because they're all kind of like in this, what is it? Like they're in like a 400-year war or something like that at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting
So
it.
A lot of people have died, so it makes sense that they would want to have something traditional to like kind of fall on.
Yeah.
To feel better about where your soul ends up. So I agree for sure.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Okay, so we have Violet's in line to cross the parapet. She makes her first friend in the college, Rhiannon, who does also survive the crossing. She makes her first enemy, Jack, who tries to kill her the entire rest of the book. And then you get your like first 2 really big pieces of information about Violet. She is small and weak and has some sort of unidentified disability, which is most likely the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And the fact that she is so small.
So small.
And the fact that she comes from the scribe quadrant. She makes a big deal about her thing of like being calm is just kind of like reciting logic and facts and information. So that's how you get a lot of this early world building from Rebecca Yarros, is through Violet literally info dumping at you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
For context, her mom is this like super hard ass, very emotionally unavailable general
mhm,
who was a writer. And her father, who was bringing her up to be a scribe, was a scribe himself.
mhm,
So he butted heads a lot when he was alive, from what it sounds like, with Lilith, which is the mom. That, um, yes, riders and infantry fought the wars and they did this stuff, but really, what preserved their history and the lessons learned and all this other stuff is them as the scribes. Like he views them as like the backbone to their society. So that's the mindset, I guess, to put yourself in with Violet on like why facts and stuff would be like a grounding for her,
mhm. Yeah,
essentially.
good point.
And like that her being a scribe, which it gets mentioned later, like, oh, you think like a scribe, and they like say it as an insult, but she's like, well, but like that means I think about things on like a different level than you because I studied history and I know how to learn from it.
Yeah,
And you guys just study like tactics. We
correct.
continue.
I'm trying to see. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So just real quick before she does that, she meets the bad boy love interest, Zayden Ryerson. You find out that Zayden Ryerson is the son of the great betrayer, who is basically just somebody that tried to throw a coup a couple years ago, and now because Zayden is his son, like he gets a bad rap, and yet he and the other kids of the rebellion leaders are still allowed to be riders in the rider quadrant, which is like the most elite faction. But you have all these rebellion kids that you hate in there. I don't know. Um, and the whole reason that Fourth Wing starts as an enemies to lovers is Violet is told that Zayden Ryerson will kill her because she is General Sorrengail's daughter and he is the great betrayer's son, and like they were like enemies, and her mom killed his dad.
But
So
his dad's rebellion was the result of why her brother died 5 years prior.
there you go. So yeah, so she's told that he will kill her. That we'll get into that. She meets him. They have their little quips or whatever back and forth. Um, and then before she can even like think about what's happening, it's her turn to cross the parapet. Okay, so she starts crossing the parapet. The guy that crossed in front of her falls off, dies. So she knows right away, okay, this is really serious. That's also the first of many, many people that we meet and then die and then mean nothing. Anyway, okay, so then we get into this random world building stuff that she does. Um, and this is kind of, I guess, where the map in the beginning comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but just so you get an idea, she starts. The continent is home to two kingdoms, and we've been at war for 400 years. I recite, using the basic, simple data that has been drilled into me for easy recall in preparation for the scribe's test. Navarre, my home, is the larger kingdom with 6 unique provinces. Tirandor, our southernmost and largest province, shares its border with the province of Krovla within the Paromial Kingdom. And it just kind of goes on and on and on. And this is
Mm-hmm.
one of the areas where I really wish that Rebecca would have had an editor to kind of like integrate this information a lot more organically throughout the book rather than like all at once within the first 10 pages and then you forget about it because it doesn't really come up again. Anyway, you find out that Violet's mom's dragon power is weather. So while she's trying to cross the parapet, which is like this really, really tall bridge thing strung between the two landings, and it's like literally a fall to your death, it starts raining. So Violet knows like that's her mom trying to like mess with her. Um, Jack, who's the guy behind her that wants to kill her, is like hustling down this thing, yelling at her, like, I'm gonna get you, you better start moving. He's just an asshole for no reason. She makes it across the parapet. He makes it across the parapet. There's several that don't. And then that was basically like their first task to get into the rider quadrant. Um, so it lost my entire train of thought. Anyway, so they all meet up. Violet realizes that her best friend Dane Atos is there in the Rider Quadrant. He's a section leader. So you've got like
Mm-hmm.
wing leaders who are like the the top chain of command in the school, like students, and then you've got
Mm-hmm.
section leaders who have their little groups, and then I think that's the chain of command, right? Within like the student
I
body.
think I think they're squad leaders after
Squad
that.
leaders. Okay. So Dane is very surprised to see her because for all he knows, she was supposed to be going to the scribe quadrant and now she's a writer. He thinks she's gonna die because she's
He sucks.
yeah, he sucks. Um, and then it just kind of goes into like normal daily life. So they take classes, they learn things. They learn what is it, fighting. They learn a little bit of history. Um, and then one of the things that I really did like is within these fighting classes that they have to take, Violet realizes she's not going to win on physical strength. So she gets creative. Um, and she ends up finding ways to like figure out who she's going to be fighting and then trying to weaken them or take them out before she actually like has to fight them, which is really cool. Not really practical. But I did like that it showed the kind of creative side of overcoming some of your obstacles. Um, so that's kind of like the basic go of the first little bit. Um, do you want to get into like the whole dragon bonding stuff?
Yeah. So I think you pretty much hit everything. Um, One thing that I feel like almost could have been more interesting is if we saw maybe the story start out with Violet about to take the scribe test
Yeah.
and is like taking it. Maybe that's where we would get some of this information, like within the questions and
Mhm.
like how she answers.
Mhm.
And then somebody pulling her out and being like, "You're going to the parapet right now,"
Yeah. That's
and
fair.
it being like, "Whoa, like what?" I
Mm.
feel like that would have definitely been an interesting plot twist. I
Mhm.
feel like that I would have maybe had questions like, "Okay, definitely plot armor in order to get this girl across the parapet."
Right. Something.
So I can
Mhm.
understand why, or maybe if that's how the book started, maybe like her train, like maybe if we saw the whole year that she spends as a scribe or like getting ready to be a scribe and
Mhm.
then the book ending with like you're going to the writer's quadrant and us being like hey yo what.
Yeah, that like a plot
um
twist. Thanks for hanging out,
yeah,
Rachel. Come back when you get home
yeah, definitely,
if you want.
definitely rejoin us. Not if you want because we said so.
Wow.
I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Oh my god.
Free will, just
Free
kidding.
will.
So yeah, that was just kind of like my brain thoughts, I guess.
I do agree. I wish we would have gotten more from like her in the actual scribe quadrant, so we
Or
had
like
something to
or like
compare it to.
flashbacks,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
more flashbacks. I think would have been more like really really important. One thing that I really do enjoy is I think it's Professor Markham and Professor Deborah. So you learn like all the professors' names and like they all tend typically like start to form different kinds of relationships with them. It definitely felt very similar to like Hogwarts vibes. This definitely feels very Hogwartsy, like they live there pretty much
Mhm.
all the time. But the year that you're like maybe like fully enrolled, you like have to get split into these different quadrants or whatever and like pass these tests.
Mhm.
So I like how you definitely with Professor Devere and Professor Markham get like the go to history if you're looking for answers. Um, and I think that's like something really important that this book and this series does really well is they definitely push the concept of like how important it is to not lose track of your history.
Mhm.
And then later on in Iron Flame, we learn how important it is to not lose track of your unedited history.
Very topical.
Um, yes, exactly. We love to tie it into real life.
Mhm.
So one thing that you see throughout the book, like Jess said, are the little inscriptions and quotes at the top. And so one of them had something to do with like the college code of conduct. I don't know if you mentioned this, but these rebellion kids all are marked with some kind of rebellion relic, and there was an addendum to the code of conduct that said no more than 3 cadets carrying the rebellion relics can be assigned to any squad in any quadrant. And then by the next year, they add another addendum that says marked ones assembling in groups of 3 or more will now be considered an act of conspiracy, and it's a capital offense. And it's like, hey, yo, like what the hell happened?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that kind of alludes to the fact that we end up finding out towards the end of the book like something's been going on. Um, so then I think you talked about like them fighting, and I guess like the main thing to note when it comes to fighting is that, like Jess said, Violet is like, what's gonna keep me alive is my smarts and not my strength. So she does like a bunch of stuff in the background to win the fights, like poisoning them and stuff. And then that's when we get to the dragons. And then where are we at here? How far is it?
Um.
Oh, I guess it starts with the gauntlet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
it starts with the gauntlet. So one thing to note with Zayden, every time he is around Violet, Violet mentions that her scalp is
So
prickling
stupid.
or that her skin is prickling. Don't know
So
what the concept of that's
stupid.
supposed to be. It's so silly. Like, why is that the
What do you
feeling that
mean?
you feel when he's around?
I've
Like,
never
what does
had that
she mean by
happen.
that? That's never happened to me.
Nope. Nope.
Like, I don't know if that's like a weird like tick that she has, that like there's something going on that maybe she like spidey sense.
I wonder if it's like a weird way for Rebecca to be like, "Oh, look, they're like mates. They're going to end up together and their dragons are bonded." And you get a vibe of it before they ever get together because she just knows. Like, yeah, but it's
Yeah, maybe.
weird. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's weird as hell. Like my with any of my relationships, my scalp has never prickled. Like what the hell?
I've
Like
never been that
what?
aware of my
What does that
surroundings.
mean? I want to Google. What does it mean when your
Yes.
scalp feels
Yes.
prickly? Other than when
Maybe you
it's
should
itchy.
shower, babe. I don't know. Get some
Do you have
shampoo.
lice? You're not in the infantry. You're not sitting on the field.
Yes.
So the gauntlet, which is on the map of Basgayeth, is like this essentially like this obstacle course.
Mhm.
And like we love to be reminded by Violet, nobody believes in her, to include her old best friend Dane. And she's small and fragile and has this disease, and it just
Mhm.
sucks. And don't get me wrong, I am in the military myself, and I have an impingement in both my hips, and it affects everything from sitting too long, standing too long, to rucking, to running. It the works. But I swear, if there was ever a book about my experience in the army, I hope I did not mention it that often. Like, maybe I did, like, in the height of a lot of, like, my training where it would have been affected the most. So I
Mhm.
guess I could kind of understand. But at the same time, like, why is that what you're thinking all the time? Don't really understand that.
Yeah.
So I guess that could be a result of her environment. Like everybody has to remind her that, so she kind of just views it as like her identity, which I
Mhm.
could definitely understand. But essentially it involves her trying to figure out how she's gonna be a part of, well, first of all, she has to pass the gauntlet timed by herself and like with the team. And Zayden is kind of like this very tough love character, which is ironic because I feel like the enemies to lovers for them doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Because for somebody who like literally hates her, he hasn't tried to kill her one time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We can talk about that now, real quick. Real quick. Every time, every time, and I try to keep it cool, right? Earlier, every time she thinks about Zayden, the number one thing she thinks about him is he's going to kill me, or he wants to kill me, or if he looks at me, or if we're alone together, he's going to kill me. Babe, he never once ever says, implies, hints that he wants to kill you. At most, he thinks you're fucking annoying. At most. I think there's
Man, I
there's
feel
one scene where he says, I'll kill you, or if you tell anybody, I'll kill you. But, like, that is a specific threat to a specific situation. It's not like this cloud hanging over her that she thinks it is kind of thing. Like, he never once does anything to actually make anybody, including, like, the reader, think he's going to kill her. And that is the only thing she can think about him, aside from the fact that he is hot Shadow Daddy. Okay, thank you.
and who told her that? Only two people.
Mm-hmm.
Mira, because of course she's gonna think so.
Yeah.
Like, oh, our mom killed his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and she's the reason why he's here, and you're related to us. But it's like, first of all, Mira's a lieutenant, so I mean, she hasn't really been commissioned for all that long as an officer in their military. Wouldn't that mean that by the time she was in her third year, he would have been a first year? Like, babe, wouldn't he have tried to kill you?
Right.
Why is he gonna kill the youngest one only?
Right.
Only Violet.
Right.
Nobody else.
Right. Just Violet.
Just Violet.
That makes
So
no sense.
I feel like it really, like, looking back and rereading it, I was like, I don't think he ever hated her. Like, the only enemies to lovers I'm thinking, which is a theory across Book Talk and Bookstagram, which is that the enemies to lovers is actually about Violet and Dane, but I don't feel like enough about Dane is, like, pursued.
Yet.
Like, we see his like, in Iron Flame, we'll get more into it, but, like, we see his little redemption arc, sort of. But that's it.
The other theory that I have seen is, hopefully this doesn't get too spoilery, is that Xaden becomes a wyvern or whatever it is, and so, like, that might be where the enemies comes into play. But I'm like, okay, but you're marketing Fourth Wing as this enemies to lovers, and it's like, they're not really enemies though.
And
They're
from our
not.
conversation last week, this is exactly why you don't market
Mhm.
your book off of tropes, especially because sometimes the tropes don't make sense.
Mhm.
Vampire Academy is the entire plot of this girl going to go kill somebody that she loves because he turns into a Strigoi, which is like the bad vampire. Babe,
Mhm.
nowhere were they enemies.
Nope.
She was literally like, I'm either going to kill him or save him. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I love him.
Yeah. That's it.
So to kind of, like, continue into this, like, I never got that context.
Mhm.
For somebody who's supposed to be her best friend, Dane is the enemy. He's like, you're weak, go to the scribe quadrant, like, you're never gonna make it. Like, the dude sucks. Like, he's a dickhead. Like, to tell somebody that you care about so bad, get out of here, whatever. Way to support me.
Mhm.
Not.
Mhm.
But then you have Xaden, on the other hand, who, and this is before, plot twist, like, they become bonded by their dragons, is finding a way to keep her, like, even though he knows in his mind she's, like, the weakest link, he doesn't want her to stay the weakest link.
Mhm.
So when she's like, I'm never gonna make it up this gauntlet, it's like a lot of hate talk towards herself, because that's what Dane says to her. That's what her mom acts like towards her.
Mhm.
Xaden's like, listen, the right way isn't the only way. Figure this shit out. Like, I know you're smart. Use your brain, man. Like, you are poisoning these people in order to take them down in a fight. Use your brain.
Mhm.
Rely on what you know is your strength. So that's what happens.
Mhm.
She goes to this gauntlet, and she does things differently. I think she climbs the wall with daggers to, like, help her move a little faster. And then this one chick, Amber, who's the wing leader of another section, is like, excuse me, that wasn't correct, and you shouldn't even have those knives anyways, and blah blah blah. And she was like, skirt, these are my property, because anything you carry across the parapet is yours, and, like, quotes the codex to her. And Amber is really close to Dane because they're both, like, super tryhards who, like, quote the codex at everybody, and complete rule followers, like, no exceptions to the rule. And so they make it, it's good, and then that's when I think they end up doing the presentation, which is essentially this process where you walk through this field where, is it the Vale? Or, like, near the Vale? and that's where all the dragons reside. And
Mhm.
we find out that there's only like 100 something dragons to like 300 something cadets.
Mhm.
And most cadets have already, who are second and third years, have already bonded. You repeat your first year if you don't bond. So you're talking recycles from the first year who didn't bond during their first year, and then the new first year's incoming. And so they go on this and they're all chatting, and you could just tell there's like some tension, and you could tell like even though they like Violet, they kind of still view her as like this weak link. And a couple people end up dying because they're talking shit. And then the rest of them make it through, but then they notice that the black dragon that the professor swore was not going to be there for bonding has made his first appearance in years since his last rider died.
Mhm.
And it's not very common that once a dragon's rider dies for them to rebond, but occasionally it does happen. And um so then we make it to the threshing. So by this point, like I would say conscription day is probably around your first or second, like your first week of school, I would assume. So like August, September, if you're thinking like normal school year.
Mhm.
And then October 1st is the threshing. So the threshing is going to fall on October 1st no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what happens, nothing. Like that is when they do it. And pretty much this professor is like, okay, so if the dragon has already selected you from when they saw you at the presentation, they're gonna call, you're gonna know, just listen and go find them. But then basically is like if you don't hear anything and your feelings are telling you to go the other direction, do that so you don't die. So everybody's super nervous because you might not even coming out the threshing alive, and then if you don't come out bonded, your chances of bonding after that to a dragon are very. So, of course, while they were on the presentation, they found the big black dragon, and then they see this little small feather tail, and they're not supposed to really see that either. Or I'm thinking this backwards. They see the feather tail first, which is in Darna, who we end up finding out. This very small, golden looking dragon. And then at the threshing, not only do they try to find her and kill her, Jack and his cronies, but then we also see that the big black dragon that nobody thought would ever show up, and like one of like the tough mofos that like even the professors view as like one of the deadliest dragons, he makes his appearance.
Mhm. That's right.
So because Violet, our small fragile character, she likes to remind us, loves to
Can't
be
forget
like,
it.
yeah, I can't forget it. But what I do really appreciate about Violet is she definitely stands up for the little guy. She knows what it's
Mhm.
like to be berated for who you are and you can't do anything about it. It's how you were
Mhm.
born. She knows what it feels like to be underestimated. She knows what it feels like for people not believe in you, to feel like you're going to be the weak link. And so when Jack Barlow and his cronies decide that they're going to kill this dragon, which is like a capital offense, like you are absolutely not supposed to kill dragons. Like that is, they are very highly respected in this community. Um, they, she's like, psych, don't kill them. Trying to take on these three guys, knowing dang well like she's not the strongest physical person.
Mhm.
Zayden shows up once again, our enemy,
Shows up.
who literally helps her, like with, as much as he can help her without like
Mhm.
violating rules. So she doesn't kill anybody, but the dragon Taryn ends up killing him. And she's like, he's like, step aside, Silver One. And she said, hey, yo, who just spoke to me? And that is when we find out that Taryn has this big baddie has probably decided he's going to bond with her. And then the main thing, I guess, to note is that if a dragon bonds you, they tell you who they are, full name, and where they come from. And that essentially is them telling you we're bonded now. There's probably a whole lot of dragon facts I could probably get into, but I just don't know them. And I really don't feel like flipping through this whole book trying to figure it out. And I wasn't going to
Mhm.
write that down. But
Mhm.
essentially, there's certain ways to approach certain dragons. There's red ones, there's blue ones, there's orange ones, there's only a few black ones. Um, and I think black is the most rare. And orange and red are like the more common ones.
That feels right.
Blue's kind of in the middle. Blue's kind of in the middle, and then golden is obviously not at all. So then
The other thing to
he's
note
like,
is
"Oh yeah, go ahead."
riders only bond like dragon. Oh, only one rider bonds one dragon
Yes,
until Violet, because she's special.
until Violet, because
She's special.
because plot armor, she's special, and
Uh
she
huh.
gets two.
She gets two.
So, and Darna is the little gold one, and she starts randomly talking while they're flying, and Violet's like, "Hey, yo, again, who is this?"
Who the fuck is this?
And she was like, "I'm Andarna," because it's literally how I imagine her talking. I feel like Taryn is like Morgan Freeman, and Andarna is like Anna Faris.
I can see it.
Like if this like deep, or like is it Morgan Freeman, or who's the other one that was like a big narrator? Oh, who am I thinking of? There was two like major narrator people. Morgan Freeman was definitely one of them, who was who I think of, and then I feel like there was another one,
Mm.
or like Idris Elba with like he had like a little bit of accent.
Oh, I can see
Yes,
Idris Elba. Yeah.
yes, that's exactly who I felt was like
Mm-hmm.
narrating Taryn, and then Darna's like this, like
Yeah,
high
little
pitched,
hee.
like angelic sounding kind of
Yes.
voice.
You know what? What is it? Isla Fisher. That's who she sounds like to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
is that the chick who played? Not to get off topic, but is that the chick who played the girl that that Shaggy likes in
Yeah.
Scooby Doo?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
That her.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, I love that. I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with that. That's who I see now.
Fan casting.
Yes, fan casting for sure. So basically throughout this whole thing, she's like, I can't keep up, like why would you bond me? So like even like the self-doubt is so relevant, even though this dragon has literally bonded to her, he's literally picked her, and she's still
Mhm.
like, you sure? Which I can 100% relate to as a chronic over anxious thinker. And so he's like, you're the smartest of your year, you're the most cunning, like I don't know why you're freaking out, blah blah blah. But he keeps implying that he knows who and what Violet Sorrengail is. And we, even after Iron Flame, I don't think we really know. So maybe that's something that we kind of find out in Onyx Storm
Write that
when we
down.
get there.
Write that down.
Yeah, I can write that down in our notes as something to carry. Let me see. Like, should I make like a in our notes like a theories?
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Oh, theories.
Just to pick up while you do that,
Yeah, sure.
you see Violet again get creative with the ways that she has to train with Tarn. So, because Andarna is a little baby dragon, she can't really train in anything yet. So Violet is training with Tarn, this big, massive, hunking dragon. Um, One of the things that they make a point to mention is that dragons don't bond with riders that they think are unworthy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of where a lot of this like fighting and killing and training comes into play, is making sure that they are worthy of bonding a dragon. Um, so obviously Violet, because she's special, doesn't really get the same treatment, but she overcomes in a lot of other ways. So she does a lot of training. She learns different ways to hold her seat. Um, she ends up, or is it Zayden? I think also builds her a saddle for her
Mm-hmm.
dragon, so she can actually like strap herself into the saddle to ride without falling off. Which I don't know why they don't just do that for all of the dragons. Um, so things like that. So you see the ways that she overcomes her own shortcomings in training with Taryn and all of this other stuff. Um, Taryn continues to tell her, like Alexis said, like, I know who you are. You're worthy. I picked you for a reason. Don't worry about it. Um, and then you kind of see like all of the repercussions of, her bonding to dragons and her being special, and then how she like um kind of like overcomes all of the challenges that she had when she first like got to the school. Okay, go ahead if you want to pick it back up.
You're good. That's definitely a perfect way to kind of get us into her journey. So, of course, most of her friends bond. Few of them die or don't bond. Um, which I think we both brought this up, so I think I want to bring it up now because I think it's pretty relevant to kind of like where we are, not quite halfway, but like about to be through the context of Fourth Wing. So I think you brought it up in your notes for today's stream, but one of my things is like, why are we sending perfectly healthy adults to die at a school
Yes.
when war? Okay, I am an HR officer in the army. One thing that is critical to our job is having people because people are going to fight majority of your war, right? Like you can
Mhm.
have a cyber war all you want, you can do all this other stuff, but people notoriously fight wars.
Mhm. Mhm.
Why in what world is having excess personnel a bad thing?
Mhm.
Ready to replace like any killed in action, any people who are wounded in action.
And like, don't they also make
I
a
just feel so confused.
yeah? And they make a point to mention that they don't have the numbers to continue protecting their borders or something like that too. So it's like, okay, but instead of sending these people to infantry, you are first of all, you're allowing riders to kill other potential riders before they even like get to the quadrant. They're falling off the parapet dying. Um they're killing each other. They're dying in these challenges and in these tasks. Like I said earlier, we are constantly introduced to characters that die within the next couple of pages, like for no reason. And it's like, okay, so why don't we send them to infantry? Why don't we send them to the healer quadrant? Why don't we send them to be a scribe instead of letting all of these people die? Like,
Yeah, like
I
one
don't
thing that
get
they will do in
it.
the military for you in real life is they will let you reclass if you no longer can do the job that maybe you originally joined for.
Mhm.
So it's like if you know that you're not over excess in people,
Mhm.
like you know you're literally short on numbers, why
Mhm.
would you not use them like don't have them die for real. Like if they fall off the parapet, have something underneath or have them getting caught or something
Yeah, and
and
send them
go, okay,
elsewhere.
you're just not going to be in the writer's quadrant.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
You're bad.
Or like, and then if you fail first year, like you don't get a drag in your first year, why would you stick around and like why would you be forced to repeat your first year? You weren't worthy already. What is it about retaking your training that you survived that's going to make you more worthy the second time? Like, no, you failed your first year, go to the infantry. Bye. Like, I don't
Yeah. I mean,
that
I get giving people like a redemption arc, but it's like what or like, like another chance cuz like I've had to do a couple of my trainings a couple of times, but like just for the physical aspect and I kept getting hurt.
mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
like you have the option like in the real life army that
Mhm.
she knows, like you can go back and repeat schools. Like Ranger school you can do a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Like I know plenty of people who did not pass. It's only a 60-day course, but it'll take people more than that
Mhm.
because you get recycled through each phase, and stuff like that. So it's like this is literally something that they do in real life.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get this is fantasy, you need to like make it hardcore, but it's like, okay, you this Dylan guy, like from the very beginning, she missed for five
Yes.
minutes. I was like waiting to graduate and get engaged to his
Yeah.
girlfriend or whatever. Like he goes him to be a medic, bro. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. Like this is not that deep.
We are killing characters just for the sake of killing characters to make this like look more badass, and it doesn't make sense. Can I
and
assist you?
and at no and like I get this war's been going on for 400 years, but it's like listen to what I'm saying, 400.
Yeah,
Like that means
400.
that you're trying to maintain your population, also fight this war
Mhm.
for 400 years.
Yeah. Like damn, y'all haven't won or lost in 400 years. That's kind of crazy.
Like could you imagine? And then like that has to then that brings you to like to know that essentially like, they're all getting drafted.
Yeah.
Like nobody's openly volunteering for, I mean they're volunteering for what quadrant they're trying to attempt to be in,
Mhm.
but they're not volunteering to be put in this school. Like they're being told to go to the school.
Right.
Unless circumstances arise where like I think it's Rhiannon's sister didn't go to this school. Rhiannon's sister like got pregnant and got married really young.
Yeah.
So it's like I guess be a parent or go die at a work.
Only two genders. Parent or death.
That's it.
Those
That's
are
it.
two options.
Two options only. So there's a lot of like we've been saying with Rebecca Yarros, like there is a lot of good bones here. There's a lot of good ideas. But there's some of these things that are just like this doesn't make sense. Like the rebellion kids being sent as a punishment to like avoid other rebellions. I completely understand. Like that I get it. Again, I don't know why you put them in your writer's quadrant other than the fact that like they have a higher chance of dying because apparently you can kill kids here.
Yes, just kill him. Just kill him.
But at that point, yeah, just literally kill them. You just want to be like on your ethical high horse
Yeah.
and be like, well, we're not killing them.
Instead, you've got these like rebellion criminals holding some of like the most elite positions in your military. For what?
For what is exactly it. Yeah. So just kind of wanted to get into that tidbit because then it's like when, only so many people bond and other people die this direction. You're like, what the hell is happening? Like, okay. Well, then Dane decides, because he's the enemy here, that he's just gonna drop a bomb that Taryn and Sigale, which is Zayden's dragon, are mated. And that is when we find out because Dane is so pissed because he was like, this would have never happened if this bitch listened to me and went to the scribe quadrant, and then I could have married her when I got out of here.
I could have married her.
Blah, blah, blah. And she could have just been this chill scribe, like, probably going to take over the squad, like, be the, main head professor of the scribe quadrant, because that's literally what she was being brought up for. And he's, like, dreams crushed, because now she's about to be stationed with my literal, like,
enemy.
Male ego inspiration / enemy. And like the great betrayer's son, he's like, screw this guy. This guy's better than me in so many ways, and like he didn't even want to be a part of this. So that's when that happens. And that, of course, leads us to start to set up for Violet realizing that she has to contemplate what life being beside Sigale and Xaden is going to look like. So that is where we see her start to imagine things like this. However, before that happens, Dane's signet, and signets are these things that you develop that typically are a reflection of who you are at the core, or sometimes it's just kind of based on the dragon that you have, that are channeled from the dragon through you and come out as your signet. And it's essentially like another way that the dragon can be extra deadly. And you and your bonded dragon can kind of like bounce back off of each other's strengths and weaknesses in order to fight these battles to like eventually hopefully end this 400-year war. Well, Dane's signet is that he can see your most recent memories, but according to him, only if he cups your face. Or like touches your palm, or what was the other one? Isn't there like another way that he said?
I think basically he says it's like skin to skin, right?
And basically like he has to like get permission or something, Not what the other one is, which is what we see later when that kid dies.
He's just like a general mind reader, and then they kill him.
And it's like a general mind reader where I thought it was like pretty soon after that, but apparently I'm not able to find it. And it's called like an initius something, right?
Yes.
Oh, here it is. I found it. What the hell? This is when he's like freaking out, and then somebody says do something.
Oh, isn't it like innate or something? Intrinsic. That's it.
That's what it is. He's everything I am and everything I'm not. Yeah, so this one guy randomly, that's like in another class, um randomly starts going freaking crazy, and it comes to find out that it's like a capital offense to be intrinsic, because basically you're like a threat. You can like read everybody's mind. There's no control over it. Not everybody has the capacity to like shield against it and all this other kind of stuff, so they kill you. So Dane is like, well, I'm not a capital offense. I'm fine because it has to be by touch. I don't just read it all the time. And then implies that essentially has to be almost like consensual.
Mhm.
Well, one thing to notice that by the time I think somebody did a counter at one point after Fourth Wing came out of how many times you realize that Dane actually finds a way to touch Violet, from
Mhm.
her shoulder to her face to him trying to kiss her, to all this other stuff, which we end up finding out later is why he's fake. We don't like
Mhm.
him,
Mhm. Reading her thoughts without her permission.
which is terrible.
Asshole.
So fast forward, she is about to be killed in her room while she's sleeping, which is against the codex. And Jess, I don't know if you want to pick it back up.
Um, what chapter are we in? Okay.
I'm on page 221.
Okay, hold
That makes it easier.
on. No, because I'm on Kindle.
Oh, hold on. Chapter. I forgot you have it on your Kindle.
Yeah.
18.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Also one thing now that you've brought up the signets, what the fuck is a mage light? Why the
I don't
fuck
know.
do they need dragon magic to use pens? Like, there's so much weird under magic stuff that is never explained, but like is brought up like it's important. And I don't know, it's whatever, it's fine. Um, let's see. Okay, so they do all that. There's more training. Um, Dane is being Dane because she keeps falling off of her dragon and he's like really upset about it. Um,
What word did you say for the other one? What did you say? A malignant? What was it?
a mage light. That's like
Me.
that's like what their little lights are. They call them mage lights or something. Like, which like implies like there's a bigger magic system than this.
What do mage?
Um,
Somebody said in the Fourth Wing Reddit, "What are mage lights? What do mage lights look like?" LOL. I don't think it's real, so I don't know how they would actually look.
yeah.
Somebody said I basically pictured them as like floating lantern lights or like floating orbs of light, or almost somebody said like instead of burning gas, the light is like Lumos from Harry Potter, just on like a bigger scale.
Oh,
And somebody said I
interesting.
picture the little candlesticks like in Harry Potter.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. At those parts, I just let my imagination do its thing. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Anyway, so we got through all that.
Valid.
Okay, yeah. So she's about to be killed in her room, and Tarn, right? So riders and dragons are mentally linked, so they can like communicate to each other through their thoughts. Um, so she's attacked in her room. Um, Tarn is trying to get to her, tells her that he's almost there, and she's like, he who? And then like Zayden shows up. You realize that they're trying to kill her to get to her dragon, and Darna said like comes into play at some point, and then you realize Andarna's power has manifested through Violet, and Andarna can control
Mm-hmm.
time. So Violet is able to freeze everybody in the room to kind of get herself out of there. So she does that. Zayden shows up. Um, she unfreezes everybody in the room. Um, okay, ma'am.
The cat.
Yeah, she didn't like that I was scrolling on my Kindle. Okay.
She's so funny.
She's a bitch. Okay. Um, he Zayden kills the people that attacked her, which again, more killing, even though like he's like, oh, it's against the codex to kill her. Like, but you know that she doesn't deserve to be bonded to the dragon, and he's like, well, he chose her, so oh well. Also, you tried to kill her,
Right.
so now I'm gonna kill you. So that becomes a whole thing. There's sexual tension going on. Um, let's see. Is this?
Oh, one thing that it alludes to is that she says, like, she thinks to herself, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And she says, I repeat the mantra in my head as Zayden wipes the blood from my dagger on the back of Orin's tunic. Yes, you're alive. Zayden steps over Orin's body and two others, retrieving my dagger from the fallen woman's shoulder. Before reaching my armoire, I don't even recognize her, and yet she's trying to kill me. And she goes, I didn't realize I said that out loud. And I was like, because you didn't. Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
What is
That's
Zayden's second
true.
signature? She said daddy.
Ooh, daddy. Shadow daddy.
You right, you right.
Uh
Except,
huh.
okay, listen. I love me some Zayden, but I'm not gonna lie. The more I've listened to like the audiobook or reread this finally, Rydick or Rydock, that's my boy right there. And he's the Hispanic representation.
Hey. Mm-hmm.
He's so funny, and he says the most random shit, and he just cracks me up. He is like the definition of like, I'm just gonna let my intrusive thoughts win.
Correct. Correct.
I love him. I think if Zayden was not like amazing and like just main male character energy,
Mm-hmm. That would be that.
because I liked Emmett and not even Jacob and Edward, so like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He gives me Emmett energy.
Ah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. So
We
basically,
love Liam.
oh, Liam, R.I.P. So basically, Zayden takes Protective Daddy a little bit too far and assigns Violet a bodyguard detail amongst like his
Yes.
rebellion friends. So there's always somebody guarding her room or like, outside the door, something like that, just to make sure that she's safe. Um, this whole thing happens. Is there anything
It's
important?
after Amber, when she tells Zayden that Amber is the girl that orchestrated this and got them into the room, and Dane doesn't believe her. Dane's
Oh
like,
yeah.
not my girl. She's like the Codex Queen to my Codex King, and
The Codex Queen
and
to
then he
my
was like,
Codex
and
King.
then this is when his intentions really come out, because remember he was like, just show me your memories, and then immediately just went to go touch her, and Violet was like, who who do you think you are?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we kind of start to see through the cracks
Mm-hmm.
of Dane and where his loyalties lie, which is following the rules
Yeah.
and no exceptions to that. Like, even if you're his friend, you will die
Mm-hmm.
because the rules have to be followed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the main thing before obviously we see Liam take over as the bodyguard.
Yeah, so they kill Amber. Which again, just more killing.
Yep.
Liam steps up as the big bad, like friendly guy that he becomes more important throughout like the rest of the story. They become pretty close friends. Um, there's a couple of trips to the Scribe Quadrant, so
Mm-hmm.
Violet can meet up with Yesenia, who is her
Yeah, I think
friend.
Yesenia.
Um, I think they kind of do like some research, and she gets. That's when she asks Yesenia about a book of childhood fairy tales, um, which becomes more important
Mm-hmm.
later in the story. Um, eventually, let's see.
Rachel said, if
Yeah,
anything, the stream is proving I need to reread the other books before I continue Onyx Storm. Because wow, I don't remember most of these details. In my
yeah,
defense, neither did I.
same. I'm like, oh, I remember like the basic gist, but I'm like, oh, I don't remember that. Oh, I don't remember that.
Another detail to note on page 252 on the hardback one. I don't know what chapter that is. Hold up.
That's okay.
It would be chapter 21, is that she mentions, I don't bother agreeing with what's obviously a conditioned reply. King Tori's response after the rebellion was swift, even cruel. And King Tari is the king of the Navarre kingdom, which is the 6 provinces.
Okay.
Um, response after the rebellion was swift, even cruel, but I was a 15-year-old girl too lost in her own grief to think mercifully on the people who had caused my brother's death. So you're talking 5 years before this. The
Mhm.
burning of Aracia, which had been Tyrandor's capital, to the ground had never sat well with me, though. Hint.
Mhm.
Because where did they end up at?
Mhm.
So I feel like that was so like you see where she had some of the connections that in Iron Flame she starts to close,
Okay.
but then Iron Flame she opens more.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like one thing, and then I think Erasia is where I think we end up finding out that Zayden lived.
Okay.
So
Um.
that's good to know as well.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, he also mentions that there are 100. Oh, Liam. So her and Liam are talking. They're getting to know each other, like Jess was
Mhm.
saying. And on the next page, Liam basically tells her that how there is 107 rebellion kids. So people who were involved in this rebellion 5 years before, there are five. There are 107 kids. The oldest is Zayden, and the youngest is only 6 years old, which means she was born pretty much right before the rebellion would have happened,
Mhm.
pretty short lived and ended.
Um. You can keep going if you want.
Um.
I am running out of water. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah,
my
I need to get
throat
some
can keep
too.
going.
I like don't even have any with me. I'm like, um, I'm trying to think. So, oh, basically they have to take these classes called battle brief classes. So, overall, they've got like this history class, which is taught by a scribe professor. They have the battle brief class. They have a flying class once they bond to their dragons. And then they have the class with Professor Carr to work on their signets and like channeling their powers and stuff. And then I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting. Oh, sparring class, a fighting
Mhm.
class. Is that all of them?
I think so. That's at least
Yeah,
most of
that is
them.
all of them. Yeah, yeah. I think it's the ones that are mentioned the most,
Mhm.
essentially. So they mentioned that there was another high altitude attack. Now, at the beginning of the book, when they're on their first day of battle brief, Violet ends up having Rhiannon ask, "Oh, like what altitude are they flying at?" Because the what are they called? The Gryphons, which are like the other part of the or this continent's like version
Mhm.
of dragons. Like there are different dragon breeds, I guess, or maybe different dragon species or groups, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, they can't fly at as high, but we keep getting these super high altitude attacks. But the thing about the first one was that one of the Navarre's wings was like squads was already heading there as if they knew, like it was like premeditated.
Mhm.
So apparently a second one happens by the time we're in chapter 21, and a supply convoy was looted, which like in war, looting and like attacking and raiding and ambushing like supply routes and stuff is like really critical and can change the tide to a lot of battles and like to a lot of wars. So they get a little tactical there. And then she says that she's like, I guess we'll hear about it in battle brief today. But then in her brain, she's like, a lot of these attacks along our southern borders keep happening, and they keep happening in the same way. What's going on? So you can see her scribe and tactical side start to meet with what she's noticing, which is really important.
Mhm.
So then it's alluded to that a lot of Taryn's emotions and feelings lead into Violet because they're bonded, and this is any bonded dragon. Well, um is it chapter 22? Oh yeah, then they fought for a little while, and then randomly after the fight, I think Zayden like channeled some emotions towards her or something, or the dragons did, and she notices a bunch of scars on the back on his back, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And then I think that's when she kind of instantly recognizes like what they're for.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of all this, the dragons are like, "She's ready for her signet," but then she still doesn't get it for like another few chapters, I think.
Yeah. Well, then is this
Yeah,
the?
I want. You got
Like I'll take this
this.
part. Yeah. Then they fuck. The end.
No, they don't yet.
No. No. Then they realize. So they realize that they can feel what the dragons feel. So Violet and Liam are just hanging out, and she has the thought of just like, I really need to get laid. She's getting these feels. She's like, no, that's really weird. I don't know what's going on. Um, and like it's like overpowering her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's see. It says, energy pours in, a deluge of raw, endless power, eroding everything I was and forging something completely new as it fills every pore, every organ, every bone. My head screams, and it feels like Taryn has flown too high, too fast, and I can't pop my ears. All I can do is lie there on the floor and pray the pressure equalizes. So at first, I thought it was just something coming from, like Taryn had done or whatever. Um, and then it just keeps talking about the energy. The pain ebbs, but the energy, the power doesn't. It's simply there, prowling through my veins, saturating every cell in my body. Uh, so she realizes that Taryn's power has like come into fruition, I guess. I forget what the actual like
Mm-hmm.
manifested. There we go.
Yeah.
Um so that kind of happens. I don't really think we get an answer as to what it was right away. And then that's when the lust kicks in. Um she thinks she has feelings for Liam, and then she
Mm-hmm.
realizes like that's not who you really want. He's not Zayden, because of course he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Um Not me literally grabbing my paperback fourth wing, bookmark, and a pen so I can start the official reread. Hey, welcome to the club.
Yes, yes. Welcome.
Oh my gosh. Um, so Violet realizes that so Liam says, "You don't look like yourself." And then Violet realizes it's because she's not herself. All of this, the need, the lust, the craving for the one person who I'm meant to be with, it's coming from Taryn. So Violet kind of freaks out, leaves, and runs into none other than Zayden Ryerson. Um, so they kind of discuss and realize that the lust that because their dragons are mated, obviously their dragons fuck, and then that kind of trickles down to the two of them, so they get those residual feelings, um, and Zayden explains that like she has to learn how to shield against them in order to like not feel those things quite so heavily. Um, and then again, we get some tension going on.
And of course, she learns how to shield super fast.
Of course she does because she's special. Um, let's see. There's a lot of that. And then they do fuck. They get into it. Um,
No, not yet. Still,
no.
no, they just kissed this time.
Oh my god! How much buildup?
There was a lot.
Oh
So
my god.
he tells her that kissing her would be a cataclysmic mistake, and then they kiss, and he's like, we're definitely well, he says we're gonna regret it,
Oh, he takes the
and
moral high ground this
yes, so
time.
they kiss and they start like making
I.
out, and then he was
That's
like,
right.
we're gonna be stationed together forever. We
Ugh.
can't do this.
Yeah, he's like, yeah,
Yes.
you're not feeling this. This is Terrence's feelings coming onto you. You don't
Yeah, this
actually
isn't
want
you.
this.
You
And I'm
exactly.
like,
So of course we're seeing the I could never deserve her, boy
mm-hmm,
mindset. So
mm-hmm.
special and so small. And so then of course, they don't talk, they kind of lose contact. Like he kind of goes MIA other than being her wing leader.
mm-hmm.
And they're fighting and other stuff, and then she like sees Rain, Signet, and then of course her and Dane fight some more, and he like squeezes her shoulder, dick.
Dick
And
reading her
then
memories.
now we're in like January. So she's like studying, she's flying, she's lifting weights with Imogen, which is another rebellion kid in their squad. And she's fighting with Rhiannon. Well then at one point basically Zayden's like,
Gaslight
yeah,
me,
this isn't
daddy.
working anymore. Gaslight me, daddy. so basically we see him go. Okay, I'm gonna skip to a certain part because what does he say? I think I'm like really close to it. He basically tells her, because I don't remember where exactly it's at, that everything that has to do with her is now his responsibility. That he's like, I'm taking care of you. I'm going to teach you how to fight. I'm going to teach you how to fly. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you die, I die. And we're mated. And if I'm going to live throughout this war and we're going to freaking do something about it, I need you to stay alive. Essentially what the conversation was. Well, fast forward, then they go to like those games, the like squad games or whatever.
Damn, they
And
did
that's
all
where
this
I'm at
before?
right now.
That's crazy.
I know they still haven't done it. We're not at the ball. The ball is when they finally do it.
Oh, that's right.
Which it do be like that
It
sometimes.
do be like that. Damn. Okay, I give her props. This is a decent slow burn.
Yeah, she held it out. Yeah,
Mhm.
if Rebecca Yarros knows anything, she knows how to do a slow burn because she's a romance writer.
Mhm.
So the part that I'm on, which I guess I shouldn't technically leave it because I'm on a, but she ends up finding these during these squad games. She's supposed to do something like without getting caught and like do some stuff. So Violet's like, we're breaking into my mom's office. So they break into the office. She finds some stuff, and then they steal something. But my brain's not remembering exactly what it is. But in the midst of all this, all their leadership's gone. So like Zayden got tapped out, Dane got tapped out, and they're left with like essentially like your core group in all the first years. So like Imogen, who's a second year, Rydock and Sawyer and all them who are all first years, Liam of course, and I feel like there's like a few other people that are in their little group. Well, then of course, they finish, and then they meet eyes, her and Zayden, and she's like, it doesn't matter how the vote comes up because I've already won. Was it a dagger? I think you might be right.
And
Rachel.
I thought it was.
It was something like that. It was a map or a dagger or
It's
something.
it's something that she specifically says to break into her mom's office for. It's some sort of like battle map or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it.
So then, of course, flight maneuvers continue. And I haven't gotten this far yet. But basically, this is when she ends up running into Mira, which is her sister. And she basically is like, all these things have happened. Like, this is crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then they go to her sister's village that she's like stationed at. And essentially, Rhiannon wants to go check in on something nearby this village because her sister was pregnant. She's like, I want to make sure with all these attacks that are happening, like my family's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So they go and do it, and then there's a Gryphon. That's the other dragon. And basically basically, in the midst of all this, Zayden shows the hell up, and everybody's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And she's like, and so she asks Mira, "Have you ever been stationed with any riders that made of mated pairs? One, why?" She goes, "I'm wondering how long they can be separated." And Zayden basically goes, "Turns out about 3 days is their max." So he shows up, and I think they got to go home because they won the squad games. Like I think that was part of their
Yes.
reward or whatever.
I've almost
You're
found
still
it.
trying to find what it is.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's a letter, I think, right?
I think she finds the letter and reads it, but that's not what they were taking, right? She just finds it and is like, "Wait a minute, there's more going on than we thought about."
Oh, it is the map. Like the map of the city that sits behind her mom's desk. That's what they take. It also shows the
Squid Games.
outposts and supply routes within Navarre, the ruined
Mm,
deserted lands, troops. It's basically like a battle map, I think.
that sounds right.
Squatty Squid Games. Yes.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Yes. Okay, so that's what they take. They take the map.
So I know we've been talking for about 2 hours, and thankfully, like y'all have chatted with us, which is so fun, and I'm
Mhm.
so excited. Um, I think we have a pretty decent chunk left. I We could probably get through the semantics for now. And then I'll try to see if in any of my little tabs, because this part of my book's actually tabbed, if I
Mhm.
see anything. Um, let's see. I think something ends up happening, right? And don't they get attacked?
Yes. Cuz she's at the No, they get sent.
That's the end. That's the end.
Isn't there a second one where they get sent and then that's where
Yeah,
she meets
that's
Mira?
towards the end.
Oh, okay, then I don't remember.
Wait, no, the first one is when they go see Mira because they won the
Right.
opportunity to go
And
see
then
like a real
something
girls
happens
boutique
there,
one.
right?
Yeah, something does happen there, but I'm trying to remember what. So at this point, I think this is when Zayden decides to let her know that they can talk mentally.
Sure.
Because she goes, "Oh, don't be a dick," and he says, "You haven't even seen me start to be a dick," and she was like, "Hey, yo, a third time." And he said, "You're staring. It's about to get awkward in about 30 seconds if you don't stop." And he was like, "How?" And she was like, "Same." He was like, "Same way you talk to Sigil. We're gloriously, annoyingly linked. This is just one of the perks. Though I'm starting to wish I tried it sooner. The look on your face is priceless." So he basically starts messing with her,
Mhm.
which is so funny. Like literally, I love him. And basically, Dane gets pissed because he's like, "Only 3 days. You guys can only be separated for 3 days, so of
Mhm.
course, jealousy's not a cute color on you, Dane." And he was like, "It has nothing to do with him. That's up to Taryn and Sigil." And that's when Zayden, oh, of course, I highlighted this part because I'm a nerd.
Of course.
I said, "You never considered that it was you I couldn't stay away from?" Oh. She
Oh.
said, "Oh, not me. Little old me."
Oh my god.
So, of course, because he calls her violence, he says, now, you'll give our little communication secret away if you can't keep from being so violent." Literally, I'm obsessed with him. Um, but then they're like talking to Mira because I think the whole point of going to this, which they didn't know Mira was going to be there, they ran into her,
Mhm.
was I think to like shadow them and kind of see what they're doing.
Yes, that's right.
And then basically, Taryn's like, you have to figure out which pathway is Taryn versus Andarna versus Sigale versus Zayden. So essentially, this like very and Rachel said me eating it up every time. No, same. Um, Basically, it seems like this is something that like the connections, even though they're mental, are something that as long as they visualize it somehow in something tangible, they can kind of assess things. Like that's how the shield worked. So for her, it's the archives. And in order to shield, she basically closes the door, like the vault to the archives in her
Mhm.
mind. And so I'm assuming this is kind of the same concept. Like you have to visualize it in order for it to work, I guess. But then I guess in the midst of this, Mira senses a lot of tension between her and Dane, and basically tells you're being stupid, and was like, "You guys have been best friends since you were 5. Like, figure this shit out." And then basically here's where her trust issues with Zayden start, and they continue through all of Iron Flame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Girl, same. It's okay. Trust issue queens. But at this point, I don't understand why she has trust issues because at this point, she's not realized she's been being lied to her whole life. So
Mm-hmm.
that confuses me a little bit. I'm like, Violet, are you a Scorpio?
Are you a Scorpio?
you're just born with natural trust issues. And then I guess Mira gets mad at her because she was like, and they get like an argument, and she's like, "But I'm not you." She's like, "I'm me, and you're you." And this is the first time we see Mira kind of like believe in her more
Mm-hmm.
than she kind of already.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it is. There's a drift of Gryphons headed this way, and the
There
wards
it
were
is.
down.
Yeah.
So a bunch of crazy stuff happens, and then she basically says like, "This isn't about me. I don't know what's going on." And then I think they leave, and so then she ends up leaving, not really knowing what happens to her sister.
Yes.
So Zayden kind of forced her to leave, and she like is like, "I don't know what happened to my sister. Like, I don't know what's going on." Blah blah blah. We end up finding out that now he's 23, and apparently she was born in July. Okay, maybe she's a Leo. Maybe she's a Cancer. You know, if she's a Cancer, that makes sense. They're kind of sensitive. Me being like, oh my god, she's so right. So we realize he's obviously a little bit older than her.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's been through a little bit of a harder life. We just don't know to what extent, other than like the rebellion stuff. And then this is where I don't really know what was happening because I haven't gotten this far. So you might have to pick it up from here.
Joke's on you, I also didn't get this far, so. Oops.
Shit. Okay, we're gonna make this work and try to wrap up by 2.5 hours. So yeah. They start asking questions. We find out that he doesn't have siblings. Then she's like, okay, well, we're like stuck together. So I obviously need to get to know you. So she's like, what's your favorite food? And he's like, chocolate cake, something weird. And she laughs. And so they're getting to know each other mentally because remember, like, fraternization's not really a thing. So, like, they can't really be caught together all that often together, like, alone. So they're getting together, like getting to know each other throughout this way. So she's like asking how he knows Liam, and they were fostered together. And she was like, I just don't know you. And she goes, tell me about your scars on your back. And he's like, why do you want to know that? She's like, why don't you want to tell me? And they run into, and then basically Taryn's like, are you pushing for a reason to want to know? And she's like, can you not give me one? And he says, he cares for you. That's already hard enough for him. He cares about keeping me alive. There's a difference. And she said, and Taryn says, not for him, there isn't. So now we're alluding to the fact that this apparently enemies to lovers is
Mm-hmm.
leaning towards the lovers
Yeah.
part.
Which, I take it back. I thought she got the saddle from him, like, way earlier. She gets it now. So she spent this entire time trying and failing to, like, stay on Taryn. Um, and now, like, she gets the saddle. So, like, now it becomes a lot easier for her to be seated and to actually, like, be the
What
rider.
does your thing say? It started out in the actual chat. What does it actually say? All I see is dad with a bunch of
Oh,
stars.
she says, shut up, Dad.
That's funny.
um, so that happens. Um, I think there's like a capture the flag thing that happens. Um,
I've highlighted another Zayden quote before we get to the
oh, go
capture the
for it.
flag part. He says, Aiden. He says, "Fuck, that stubborn, feisty look always makes me want to kiss you." So now we're getting to the part to where like, mm, something's about to happen.
um.
And then he says, "When did I ever give the impression that I give a fuck about what people think about me? I only care about what they think about you." And I was like, "Ooh." But also, like, that's annoying. Like, this girl doesn't care about what people think about her either. She cares about what she thinks about herself. Like, if any
Mhm.
approval that she's trying to get is like approval to just basically not die, and her mom's and herself, like,
Yeah.
ultimately.
Right. Right.
So I thought that was a little too damsel in distress for me, but it's fine.
Mhm.
Okay, go back.
Um. Let's see. I'm trying to see.
Oh yeah, with the guarding the egg was the capture the
Yes.
flag thing.
Okay. So capture the flag slash guard the egg. We get a moment where uh, it says power rattles my bones as if it's looking for a way out, and I force myself upright. It's different than usual. Like instead of standing ready to be molded by my hands, it wants to mold me. So Violet's signet power is like teasing right under the surface at this point. Um,
And Darna pauses time again.
yes. They come upon the opposite team and realize that Jack is there. So now it becomes like them against Jack, and Jack is out for blood. Like he's gonna use this for blood. Um, Liam gets hurt really bad. Um, and that's when she stops time. She catches Liam. Um,
Her signet appears
huh?
at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
Her signet appears.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, I'm getting there. Um, and she isn't she kill Jack there too? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so she's so pissed off that Jack like hurt Liam or whatever, and it becomes a whole thing. And her signet appears, and she becomes lightning wielder. So ha ha, silver one, silver hair, lightning wielder.
Yeah, she says, "I am the sky and the power of every storm that has ever been. I am infinite." A scream rips from my throat as just as lightning splits the sky with a terrifying crack of thunder. Taryn roars with the unmistakable sound of pride, and then that's where Jess said, "Lightning
Mm-hmm.
wielder."
She kills Jack. Liam is gonna live. Um,
And she starts having like an existential crisis about killing Jack.
yeah, she's like, I didn't want to be a killer. Like, this is not what I signed up for. I didn't want to do this. Um, and then Zayden comes in all protective shadow daddy, tells Dane to fuck off when Dane tries to, like, comfort her. Um, and then Dane tries to, like, soothe her and be like, oh, you don't have to use your power. It's okay. Like, you're not a killer. And then Zayden is just like, stop fucking coddling her. Like, she's a fully grown woman. Like, let's, treat her as what she is. So they fight a little bit. And then Zayden, like, takes her away to get her to calm down. Um, is this where they.
Still no.
God, what?
Yeah. Taryn basically starts telling her like, "Don't wallow in guilt. No one has the right to risk our hatchlings, not even you." Um,
Oh,
and
okay. It's
basically
coming
like,
now.
yeah, everybody tries to like get her to feel better
Mm-hmm.
after these games and
Yeah.
stuff. And then he basically keeps alluding to the fact that he can't stay away with her. He's like, "I don't like. I'm just trying to be there for you. I'm not trying to lecture you. I just can't stay away from you."
Mm-hmm.
And she basically, I really like this part, and I highlighted it because, so kind of like we talked about during our pairing stream, Jess really identified with Theo,
Mm-hmm.
and personally, I really identify with a lot of things that Violet goes through. So one thing that she says is, and I just keep thinking that when I was younger, I asked my dad what would happen if I wanted to be a writer like Mom or Brennan, and he told me that I wasn't like them, that my path was different. Except this place has peeled away my civility, my niceties, and it turns out my power is more destructive than any of theirs. So she basically just goes through kind of like the undertones of her life, which is she always wanted to have her own journey and have her own path. And now, not only did she follow their path, but now she's pretty much like one of the deadliest out of all of them.
Yeah. She's better.
Yeah. And she was like, part of me was like, I wanted to be like Brennan and that my signet would be mending and I can put all these broken things back together, but instead I'm made to split them apart. How many people will I kill with this? And basically, Zayden's like, as many as you choose. Like, just because you got all this doesn't mean you're just gonna like go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically starts asking like, what's wrong with me? Like any other writer would be thrilled. And that's where one of my favorite lines of Zayden comes in, where he says, "You've never been like any other writer."
Mm.
Um,
That's a
and
good
he
line.
basically tells, yeah, and he basically tells her like, we're stuck together and I'm in this with you. So within these walls where we're together, you get to feel whatever you want to feel and do what you need to do, hit something, yell, cry, whatever. But outside of these walls, we are writers and we're gonna take care of business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then this is when she kisses him
Okay.
again.
Okay. Um. Yeah. So
And then I
this,
don't is this a chapter where they
I think so.
chapter 30? So yeah, so basically this is when she kisses him and he's like, "You don't want me. Like this isn't what you want." And she's like, "I know." And he's like, "This isn't what you need." And she's like, "Well, if you're suggesting somebody else." And he was like, "Fuck no." And she was like, "But you know what?" And then she kind of like brings herself into reality. She's like, "At the end of the day, are we really gonna be together forever? Probably not. But right now, this gonna happen."
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and but throughout this whole process, he's like, "You don't want to do this."
Which I
He's
mean, I
like,
guess kudos to him for like not wanting to take advantage of the situation.
and kudos to him for thinking about the fact that they're gonna literally be together until they die.
Mhm.
Like whether that's a year, a month, a decade, a
Mhm.
century,
Yeah.
however long these people live, I guess. Like they're going to be stationed together at every point because their dragons literally cannot be separated for more than 3 days at a time.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think as all this is happening, like in his mind, he's like, "You don't want this. You really don't want this. You're gonna regret this." And she's like, "What? You don't want me?" And he's like, "Does this shit feel like I don't want you?" Like, girl, that's not the problem here. Yeah, exactly, Rachel. She's like,
Mhm.
"Don't tell me what I want." But he basically says like, oh, he actually alludes to what Jess says, where he's like, "I'm not trying to take advantage of you," and like about after the bad day.
Mhm.
And then you can kind of see like a lot of the issue, and I wonder if more in what we find out like in Iron Flame, like a lot of this has to do with the fact that like he's the great betrayer's son, she's the general's daughter. Like these are just not two paths that should mix romantically. They're already bonded together more than they ever thought they would have needed to be,
Mhm.
and they're both targets essentially for like different groups of people.
Yeah. Correct.
So I think this is when, of course, they're taking the fertility suppressant
Conveniently. Conveniently.
at every fantasy book ever.
Mhm. Also conveniently, her disability disappears while she's getting thrown around the room and put on the desk and the dresser, and they're smashing the furniture and conveniently. uh, you also find out
Not the
that
disease disappearing.
well, it does. Um,
Oh shit.
she lightning strikes like outside as the
Yes.
more into it she gets. Um, she lights different things on, like she lights a tree on fire, I think, or something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's interesting, I guess. Oh, she set the curtains on fire. That too. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, let's see. So they broke a chair.
They
They
He has to put out the curtains because she burns them.
mhm. Um yeah, they break the chair.
They said, ironically, the bed is the
The
only thing
bed
they
made
didn't
it.
break.
So it's like, huh, interesting. Um yeah.
So of course, now that they have bonded in this way,
Mhm.
she asks about the scars, and she says there's a lot of them, and he says 107. Listen to what number I said.
Mhm.
107. So that is the number that Liam mentions. That is, she goes, that's how many kids under the age of majority carry the rebellion relic. And he says, yeah. She says, what happened? And he says, I saw an opportunity to make a deal and I took it. And she was like, what the hell kind of deal would that be? And he basically says, the kind where I take personal responsibility for the loyalty of the 107 kids the rebellion's leaders left behind. In return, we are allowed to fight for our lives in the Rider Quadrant instead of being put to death like our parents. I chose the chance of death over the certainty. So now we know a little bit more about why they're going to the Riders Quadrant and not just getting killed outright, and where these scars are from.
Mhm.
So he basically says, then he says, so if any of them, so then she says, so if any of them betray Navarre, what happens? He says, then my life is forfeit. The scars are a reminder. So basically, if anybody betrays this kingdom that they try to rebel against, they're coming for Zeta and they're gonna kill them.
Mhm. Um
So,
I guess just to kind of like
oh yeah,
quickly.
she says, why did you guess that I could wield lightning? He said, I thought you did it the first night Taryn channeled power into you, but I wasn't so sure, so I didn't really say anything. Really, when? And he
Mhm.
says, the first time you kissed me.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
They have a conversation kind of about whether they're going to be serious or not serious, if he's going to stay or not stay. She realizes she's so fucked, like she's got feelings for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then she starts training with her signet power. That kind of happens. Um,
He leaves her violets, right?
yeah.
Like in her room. Mm-hmm. He
Mhm.
starts doing that.
Um, let's see. She learns that she can wield lightning but can't aim it, and it completely exhausts her. Um, that kind of becomes a point a little bit later, that she can't really aim her power. Um, let's see. Oh,
Oh yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna say she doesn't trust Professor Carr. Like
Mhm.
she feels
Yeah,
some
something's
type of
off
way
about
about him.
him. Yeah. Um, let's see. She finds a letter from her dad in a book, that says, by the time you find this, you'll probably be in the scribe quadrant. Remember that folklore is passed from one generation to the next, to teach us about our past. If we lose it, we lose the links to our past. It only takes one desperate generation to change history or even erase it. I know you'll make the right choice when the time comes. You always have been the best of both your mother and me. Um, she doesn't quite realize it at the time, but it was in like that book of fables, about how, let's see, every fable in this book is about how too much power corrupts. So maybe he thought someone in leadership was corrupt. Well, you come to
Mm-hmm.
find out it's actually about magic, and if you use too much magic, it corrupts you and turns you into a venom, which is like a
Mm-hmm.
magic vampire, for lack of a better word. Um,
And I think at this point everybody just thinks they're like
fairy tales.
fake. Like
Yeah.
that basically like it's like what like parents tell their kids to behave and like shit like that. And so he's like, are
Mhm.
they though?
Mhm. Um, they have more talk about what they are, what they aren't. She asks him to keep his hands to himself. He says that's okay, and then He's like, I'm over here keeping my hands and my memories to myself because you asked me to, and you're fucking with me. You're fucking me with your eyes. That's not playing fair. So they have a lot of mental banter back and forth. She
Mm-hmm.
says, if you would just man up. You said magic vampire, and I cracked up. Thank you. You're so welcome. um, she says, if you would just man up and admit that there is something between us, um, things would happen. Um, let's see. Then they get to 10 days away from graduation. Zayden
Damn.
being in his third year means that he's like graduating from the war college. Um, so like they're kind of worried about how to figure out how to do that with like their bonded dragons and stuff. Um,
And she keeps asking about what's gonna happen between them, and he just keeps
yes,
telling her like,
like there's no
"There's no
future.
future."
Yep. Mm, let's see.
I think she basically alludes to when she says, "Are you seriously gonna leave Best Guys without?" And then she like doesn't really continue, and he says yes. And
Mhm.
I think the concept was basically like without admitting like what I really mean to you, essentially.
Mhm.
I'm dead. Then she says, "Is there somebody else?"
Is there someone else? Oh my god. Let's see. Then they have the. That's when they have the banquet. Um.
Oh, before the banquet happens, remember they're like in class, and he's like telling her to pay attention.
Yeah.
And she's like, what should we do? Like, who should help rebuild all these wards that are failing? And she says third years. And she goes, the teacher's like, go on. She's like, well, third years are taught to build the wards. So at this point, they're leaving anyways. Might as well send them early. And he's like, okay, fucking make your point. I got it. Like, okay,
Oh.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Like
she's
she
being
was
real
like, fine. If
petty.
that's how you want to go, I'm gonna send your ass to.
Mhm.
I'm gonna
Mhm.
send your ass to the field right now. Good luck.
Um.
Don't you prefer a little brain with your brawn?
Let's see.
Rydok is so funny. He says, I'm just excited to see some people who aren't writers. It's getting kind of incestuous around here. That's
Oh
so
my
real, though.
gosh.
That's so real. Like at schools, when I tell you at army schools, bro,
I bet. I
they're
bet.
like, this
Mhm.
this course is not that long, you guys. Why are you like this? Married and not married. Let me add. Kids,
Mm.
no kids, a
I
mess.
bet. I bet.
So that's
Mhm.
when okay. So I want to make a side note. I don't want to throw us off too far because we're almost to the end, and I know we've been streaming for a while. But literally, when I tell you guys, when I started seeing on Bookstagram, people,
Mm.
when I started seeing on Bookstagram, people complaining about, oh, there was too much cussing, there was too much what promiscuity is that the word?
Yeah.
And like all this other stuff. I was like, what do people on Bookstagram think the military is? And I just laughed
Is it
because I
not a
was like,
dating
oh,
pool?
I was like, oh, little do you angels know.
I mean, I'm not gonna find my Prince Charming there. That's crazy.
You might, and then he
Or.
might cheat on you while you guys are married with kids.
Mm, mm,
Or you might cheat on him on deployment. Who knows? I don't know. Like it just the chances are high.
mhm.
So it really just made me laugh when they were like, I don't understand why they were cussing so much and why they're having so much. There was so much promiscuity. I can't even say the word, and I'm like, oh my god, you guys.
Mhm.
Like, please go find your local base and go talk to somebody and find out that this is like skimming the surface of what the military is
Right.
like.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so then yeah, then this is the ball.
Mhm. There's a little bit
and
of.
she looks.
Go ahead. Yeah, you can take it. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll say she's trying to find Zayden. She bumps into her mom and I think Colonel Ados maybe, and then somebody else. And then there's some political talk. And then the one guy is like, "Oh, where's Ryerson? Are you keeping him in line? Hope he's not trying to start another war. Ha ha he he." And she's just and she's just like, "I hate this guy. I just want to go talk to Zayden, like whatever." Um and then she finds Zayden on the parapet. She was like, "I know where he is. He's on the parapet." Um so she crosses and like meets him halfway or whatever it is. And then they have yet another conversation about why he won't, like, why he doesn't want to be with her. Um, and then it basically all comes down to they're both being stupid. They do want each other, and they agree that they are gonna, like, be together. Um, they go to his room this time so they can go destroy his shit.
Oh, pause. Right before that happens, Dane touches her again.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
And he was like, "What are you guys?" And she was like, "I'm just his."
Hmm.
Continue with Zayden breaking furniture.
They go back to his room. They're gonna break his shit. Um,
Wait. I don't want to interrupt you. Yeah, go look.
Go ahead.
Look
Oh.
at look at look at what I freaking wrote. Wait, can I put it over Discord so you can share it?
Sure.
Hold up. Oh my god. Can you freaking open, please?
Oh my god.
Okay.
Also, Rachel, no,
You're
I
gonna...
did not show Alexis the thing, but I will because that was so fucking funny.
Oh lord.
She sent me something earlier. It was just, I hope Tamlin gets his redemption arc in Onyx Storm.
Not Tamlin. Okay, I just sent it to you.
Okay.
Oh, right, yeah.
Let's see. That's not what I want. I want. Yep. Me too. I'm in love with Zayden. Me too. Oh my god.
Do you want to tell that story and where what the backstory is?
So, as we talked about a couple streams ago, maybe Alexis and I would do all of the midnight releases of the Twilight movies together. So we went to the release of the first Twilight movie together. For whatever reason, not for whatever reason, it was a lot better back in the day, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so we're sitting there, you know, we're freshmen, so we're dumb and we're having a good time and we're, you know, cheering with the whole crowd every time. And the scene where Bella is like, there were 3 things of which I was absolutely certain. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how deep that part might be that like wanted me or wanted to kill me. And third, I was completely and irrevocably in love with him. And Alexis, out of nowhere, just goes, "Me too." I mean, loud, like the theater hears it, busts out laughing. Okay, and so that has gone down in history as like, "Me too." The whole theater.
The whole movie theater heard me. And
the whole theater
started. I hope those people remember me, yes, and are like, "Guys, remember that girl screamed, 'Me too'?" Me too.
Man, I
hope I went down in history.
I hope so at the time, I would record on my like MP3 player, like the movies.
Throwback.
So I have that somewhere. If I still have that MP3 player, it's on there.
Day to live in history.
Yes.
So of course that's why I had to show that note that I wrote, because I know that's exactly where it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's
oh
so
my
funny.
God. So she admits that she's in love with him. She tells him that she's in love with him.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. I'll let you take the rest of it because I don't. I mean, they fuck again. They break more furniture. There you go.
Yeah, because I guess I have the tabs on mine.
Mhm. You can hit more of
Um,
the important stuff.
so basically he says, and did you think to stop that if you fall and die, then I can die? And she was like, I could say the same thing. And he's like, you're seriously gonna be the death of me. And she's like, you want me? You might not say it, but I know that you do, and you better do one better and show it to me. And I get that you're graduating and you think that we don't have a future, but like what you don't understand is like we're setting ourselves up to almost like hurt ourselves more to not do this. And then she basically implies like Imogen, and he's like, no. She's like, or he says that, and she's like, no, I know that there's nobody else because I wouldn't be walking to the parapet if I thought that like you were playing with me. And basically, he's like, why would you think that? Like, I've given you zero reasons to think that I've been with anybody else. And she's like, ding, ding, there it is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she basically admits that like there's all these other people that are a better match for him, and he's like, and I know the feeling well. So basically, we have two people who are basically like, we don't
Mhm.
really belong together. This doesn't. We're a very unlikely match.
Mhm.
And he basically was like, you're the smartest person I've ever met. You're fierce. Like your mind is like super attractive. He was like, basically, God's help me because apparently it was plural
There's
gods.
gods, yeah.
Um, I'm only looking at you, and then she ends up finding out, oh my gosh, this whole time Imogen wasn't looking at you, she was looking at Garrick. So we start to see these couples kind of set up,
Mhm.
like Liam and Yesenia were kind of
Teased.
linger what's the word? Teased at a little bit,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And he said there's only you violence, is that what you needed to hear? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, even when I'm not with you, there's you. Next time just ask. You've never had any other problem being bluntly honest with me, so why suddenly like would this
Mhm.
be what you're insecure about? And then he essentially starts alluding to the fact that they need to trust each other.
Mhm.
And this is where I think the hints for Iron Flame start to come up because he's like, we're gonna have to trust each other through this and blah blah blah. And she's like, so you want to do this? And he says, yes. I can't make you any promises, but like at this point, I can't fight it anymore.
Mhm.
And so, basically, that's when he's like, I've wanted you from the first second that I saw you, and all this other stuff. And I know that it's like the anniversary of you losing Brennan. So like he knows these things like about
Right.
her. And essentially, okay, here's when they go. Oh, so they were in his room at this time, parapet to his room, but then now they're going to her room. So as so the major event that they start training for is basically where it's going to be like this like life event when you don't know at the end of the year like when it's going to happen, and it's like this like huge major event. And then essentially, isn't it like almost kind of real? Like it's like serious, like it's like war games basically.
Yeah.
I think that was like the major one,
Mhm.
their Edward moment, breaking the furniture.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
So that's what happens. And he basically says, I know I'm so wildly in love with you. I can't imagine what my life would even look like without you. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but if we're doing this, then we're going to start from a place. Mm-hmm. I'm sure me. My mom.
Hi, mom.
Um, I'm going to start from a place of complete honesty. And I say, hey, yo. So then that's when I'm dead. Oh, gods. Which one are you calling out for? Forgot that's
Yeah.
here.
Which one? There's how many?
He said, I'm not going to serve. She's like, I'm not going to survive. I'm going to die right here in the bed. And he says, then I'm going to die with you. So here's another time where we see him reading her thoughts, but like her thought is not italicized. So it's not a thought that she is specifically handing to him.
Mhm.
If you're catching my drift here, hence to the
Yeah.
second signet. So they're telling, so basically, I think, oh no, she said that I'm wildly in love with you. At this point, he refuses. He hasn't
Mhm.
said I love you back
Right. So she
because
she
that
says
plays into
it.
the ending.
Mhm.
So she keeps saying that I love you, and he keeps telling her things that that he loves about her, but he has not said that he loves her back.
Mhm.
And then the next thing you know, they're like, "Oh, I know he said, then people are like pounding on the door, and he's like, somebody better be dead if I get out of this bed, Garrick. And so he gets up, and he's like, I know that there's a lot of people that are dead, which is why they're calling full cognitive formation. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they said, grab your flight letters and you better bring Stormgear with you. We're under attack. So I think these are like the squad game things.
Mhm.
So fast forward, yep, it's the war games, and they're like, nope. And she's Rihanna goes, damn, I wish someone made me shatter windows.
Yeah,
So,
she's wearing Zayden's jacket, by the way, so she
oh,
gets a lot of ribbing once people realize that like she was in Zayden's room with him,
yeah. So
breaking the
fast
window.
forward, they basically have to go to formation, and they're like, here's what's about to go down, blah 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 blah, and here's where you're gonna go. Do what you need to do, establish your headquarters, here's what's gonna happen, go get your shit, come back. So they're all like, oh my god. So they like rush back to their barracks, and then they come back, and then basically she says 5 days. Are you going to be all right if you're separated? And it says hint, and I put hint because apparently at one point they were going to be separated. So then Taryn's like, don't worry, everything is as it should be. And I was like,
What does that
what
mean?
does that mean? So then Dane's like, how can I help you? Zayden's like, I need you. And Dane's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, she just wants to say goodbye. And he goes, if you're saying goodbye, it's to him. I'm constructing my headquarters squad and you're coming with me. Which, like, establishing a headquarters in the army is like pretty, early military is like pretty common. So he basically starts selecting people. And it's like, okay. So then Dane was like, what do you mean? Like, she's a first year. This place at Athabine is beyond the wards, and basically it's like people people seem too expectant of what's going on, like Liam.
Mhm.
And she's like, what's going on? Something is sus. So then she's like, he's like, well, I don't owe you an explanation. Like, Storm get wheels lightning. Like, I don't give a shit if she's a first year. Blah blah blah. And Sageo and Taryn can't be separated. And she's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. No, babe, that's not it.
Nope.
So Dane's like, don't do this. So this starts alluding to the fact that Dane knows something.
Mhm.
Because Dane's like, don't do this. This is your plan all along. Like, blah, blah, blah. And um he's like, are you trying to just take revenge out on her because of the mom? And so they start fighting, and there's just a lot going on. And when he goes, essentially, like, something happens. I don't know. Oh, she like goes to touch his arm, Zayden's, and Zayden's like, you and him, like, people talk, and I thought that was bullshit, but like, this is ridiculous. And she was like, I trust him, and blah blah blah, whatever. And then the way that he says, I'll miss you, Violet,
Mhm.
really kind of,
Mhm. That's
really
sus.
kind of alludes to some stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So he said, thank you for trusting me. She says, always. And she said, given the one I've chose, basically they're talking about directions she chooses, and she says, my life is about to change forever. So now they start talking about like different Gryphons attacks in like this little opening, and then they're talking about like going past the wards and that magic is wilder out there. And Taryn's like, you should sleep. And basically, she just feels like there is a lot going on. And Zayden's like, keep looking at me like that, and we'll be stopped for longer than more than a half an hour. So they make this random stop. And basically, Liam, he like is honest without being honest with her. And so I feel like he's kind of alluded also that there's like a bigger picture at play, and that his loyalty for Zayden runs very, very deep.
Mhm.
And so as something happens, he grabs her hand, and they're standing, they're holding hands, and she's like, people talk, let them. And he's like, you say that now. So he's checking in on her, and she's like, you don't have to worry about me. And he's like, worrying about you is 99% of what I do. And then basically they start talking about how, oh, they only have another 10 minutes. And I was like, and so in my mind I was like, didn't Zayden just say they would be stopped as long as they need to be, and now suddenly it's we only have another 10 minutes? So then he says, trust me, my motives aren't altruistic violence. I'll take any excuse I can get to put my hands on you, which I thought was just very interesting when they were talking. And then he basically says, like, I'm too greedy when it comes to you, and I'm gonna keep you. And but he still refuses to say that I love you.
Mhm.
Well, then the next thing you know, this chick shows up,
This chick.
and we're like, who the is this? And they're like, that's a Sorengale. And he's like, no, 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 no. Like, she's on our side. And then basically she's like, our enemies are feet away. These are people with Gryphons. Like, what the hell's going on? And Liam comes up and he's like, I'm so sorry about this. Like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, why is everyone apologizing to me? And why am I confused? Like, what's happening?
Mhm.
And he said, I can't do that. I really wish I could, because he like starts grabbing onto her and she's like, let me go. So then Zayden walks up and he's like, you're early. And she goes, my heart stopped. She's like, wait a damn minute.
Mhm. Mhm.
What's been going on here? So he says the shipment isn't the issue. And she's like, shipment? And he was like, she was like, we're patrolling this place. It's about an hour southeast. And, you know, you Navarians act like nothing exists beyond your borders. I don't know why we're bothering to warn you. And he's like, warn us? What are you talking about? And she says, we lost a village in the vicinity to a horde of Venin 2 days ago. So now this is where the Venin come in. So now here's the confirmation that these Venin actually exist.
Yes.
And this information is being withheld from the entire kingdom of Navari, or whatever it is. And that is 6 provinces worth of people who don't realize that these Venin are live.
Mhm.
So then Imogen's like, these Venin have never come far west. And Violet's like, I'm hallucinating, bro.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? And Taryn is fake low key, because she's like, are you getting this? And he's like, unfortunately, yes. Like, Mofo, I know you knew this.
Mhm.
And so basically, okay, I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if anybody in the chat remembers. We still got a few people, even though we've been chatting for a while. They were the ones going on these like night rides, essentially, and meeting up with these Gryphons who were flying at higher altitude to essentially fake. The Gryphons are faking, but not faking, these attacks on the supply lines. And I'm assuming Zayden and his crew are picking them up and taking them to the rebellion.
I think that's what it is.
Is that like the understanding behind this? I guess that like these were premeditated attacks because they're stealing supplies for the rebellion.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Okay. I at least that was my takeaway. I don't know 100%.
Yeah.
We'll confirm next week when I finish this. And then so basically at this point, these people from the other side are like trying to take Violet because they're like, you're a Sorengale, blah blah blah. But then also notice that when the chick walks up, she says it's another Sorengale.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, I'll go back. He says, she says, learning about you, I'm gonna keep you. Yeah, she says, oh, she says a fucking Sorengale, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Zayden does it. You take a step toward that Sorengale, and you'll be dead before you can even shift your weight.
Okay.
She's not up for discussion. That's where the foreshadowing was.
Okay.
So then that's when she's sitting there and she's like, they're all carrying rebellion relics. Everyone in this squad besides me is the child of a separatist, and they're all fucking traitors. And I fell for it, and I fell for him. He said, yes, they are. She said, and you and Darna lied to me too. You know what he was doing. And then Darna goes, we both choose you. And so this is when she finds out Taryn was lying and he knew something was going on. So she's like, but you knew. Dragons are bound by bonds, and there is only one other bond more sacred than that of a dragon and its rider, a dragon and its mate. everyone knew but me, even my own dragons. Oh my god, was Dane right? So this is basically when she was like, this is messed up. So basically, like you can tell that Zayden's like watching her, like trying to understand like what's going on. And Violet goes to Liam and is like, "Were we ever friends? Like, if this is a lie." And he's like, "We are friends, Violet, but I owe him everything." So now you see this like literal undying loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically now, Zayden's like, "Let me explain." And she was like, "If you ever think about touching me again, like I'm literally gonna kill you."
Mm-hmm.
And Liam's like, "I don't think she's joking,
Yeah.
bro."
He's like, I'm gonna let you handle this one.
And that's when Zayden's like, "I know she does." And he's like, "You have no idea what I'm thinking. You're a traitor." And she says, "Fucking traitor." And he says, "You're thinking I betrayed our kingdom." And she says, "Logical guess, good for you." She was like, "God, you're like such a cliche. Like, are you literally just a villain hiding in plain sight?" And he said, "Actually, they're called flyers, and I might be a villain to some, but not you." And she was like, "Are we like arguing the semantics of this?"
Mm-hmm.
She said,
Also,
He said, "Dragons have riders and Graffins have flyers."
I just wanna.
Go ahead.
I can't take credit for this, like pointing this out, but I do have a theory. Um,
Oh, I'll write it down. Or are you typing it in there?
no, you can write it down. I just want to pull up the. So, isn't it the cover of Fourth Wing or one of the quotes or something like that? Doesn't it literally say like fly or die? Or am I crazy?
It does, I think.
Um, I know one of
Yeah,
it's
fly or die.
fly or die, but technically, like the flyers are for the Griffins, the Gryphons. So shouldn't it be like ride or die if we're talking about the dragons, like specifically?
Ooh.
Like that might be giving Rebecca a little too much credit, but I'm gonna give her the credit. I don't know that she specifically chose to say fly or die instead of ride or die. I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna go anywhere, but just, just,
That's
just
a really good theory. I
interesting.
kind of love that.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a really good theory.
Somebody had pointed it out as like a discrepancy and like out of annoyance of like, yeah, I just don't understand. Like, well, you make a point to say that they fly, but shouldn't they ride? And I'm like, what if it means something? I don't know.
You know?
I don't know.
You know? And in this reality, it's literally she is probably gonna like she has to choose to like literally fly or die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. Throwing that out there.
Brain broken.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Maybe.
So at this point, she still thinks the Venom are fake. She's like, they're fables. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're like insane. You're like a traitor to all of us again. And he's like, bro, they're real. Like, I don't know how to tell you how much more I could tell you, but they're literally real.
Mm-hmm.
He said they're drained. They drained all the magic out of the barons and then spread like an infestation. Well, at least that's keeping in the folklore. Like, so she's like laughing. And she's like, but what was the fable again? One brother bonded into a Gryphon and one to dragon, and when the third grew jealous, he drew directly from the source, losing his soul and waging war on the other two. And he said, yes, this is not how I wanted to tell you. She's like, assuming you were ever going to tell my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Rachel,
then
me
she's
and my
like,
homies are ride or die. Excuse you. Me and
you right, you
my
right.
rider, my dragon quadrant, we are ride or die.
So basically, she like looks at Taryn at this point. She's like, "So would you like to care to add? Like all of y'all are bitches and
Mm-hmm.
lied to me. Like, what's the plan here?" And he's like, "Oh, I prefer to you to come to your own conclusion. Don't let me down. Like I chose you for your smarts, basically." And she was like, "What the hell does that mean?"
Dick.
So he said, she goes, "Fine." Right, right. She goes, "Fine. Were I to believe Venom exists and roam the continent wielding dark magic, then I'd also to believe that they never attacked Navarre because our wards make all non-dragon magic impossible." And he says, "Yes, they'd be powerless the second they cross into the Navarre." So she was like, "That makes sense, but I desperately don't want it to." She goes, "Which would mean that we would have no clue that Poromil, the other one, is being relentlessly, viciously attacked by dark wielders just beyond our borders." He said, "Or you have to choose to believe that we know and choose to do nothing about it." So now you're talking, there's this whole other kingdom that, remember, they've been at war for 400 years.
Mhm.
And basically, Navarre is like, oh, we're good because we have the wards. We'll let the Venom take them out.
Mhm.
Proxy ward. I was like, ooh. So then she was like, why the hell would we choose to do nothing when people are being slaughtered? Like, this goes against everything we stand for. And he said, because the only thing that kills Venom is the very thing powering our wards. And I was like, a material, dragons? Like, I'm confused. And she was like, is that why there have been raids along our borders? Are looking for the material we use to power our wards? And he said, the materials forged into weapons to fight the Venom. Here, take this. So he hands her this dagger thing. And she said, you took this from my mother's desk. And I was like, what? The mother's desk?
Mm.
So there's the dagger that you were talking about.
Yeah, there it is, Rachel.
And he says, no, your mother probably has one for the same reason, to defend against Venom. And she was like, the dagger, the raids, it's all right there. And basically, like, he's like looking at her like super pitiful. He's like, oh my gosh, we're literally like crushing this entire girl's like worldview.
Mhm.
And she was like, but you told me there was no chance of us fighting something like this. And he said, no, I told you I would hope if this was a threat that our leadership would tell us. You're twisted the truth to suit your needs. And then so in the middle of this, she's like literally coming to this like conclusion of like, oh my god, Venom are real. Venom are real. Venom are real. And he's like, I wouldn't lie to you. I've never lied to you. She was like, so how do I know this is the truth? And he was like, because it hurts to think that we're the type of kingdom that would do this. It hurts to rearrange everything you think you know. Lies are comforting. Truth is painful. Relevant to today.
Mhm. Yep. Correct.
So he ends up saying that like she was supposed to tell. She sends that you're supposed to tell me. He says I should have told you months ago. And she was like, but you don't have to. And he said, because your best friend sees this memory, everything is lost. And she was like, what are you talking about? She said, Dane wouldn't break a rule to save your life, Violet. What do you think he would do if he had this knowledge? And then he basically says, and you love me. And she goes, loved. And he says, love, you love me. And she's like, I felt for you was based on secrets and deception. And he said, everything between us was real. So basically, at this point, she's like, I believe you about the Venom and I understand this stuff about the kingdom and everything else, but like you specifically, she's like, I don't trust anymore.
Mhm.
Like past what keeps us alive in a battle,
Mhm. That's it.
I don't trust you. Like this is done. Like
Mhm.
you had the opportunity to come clean to me and keep me in the loop on what was going on and catch me up to speed. And if you and then my thing is like if you know that deep down you love this girl, why would you not tell her what would literally keep you know what Dane has been doing to like to find out her memories.
Yeah.
So why would you not tell her and then let her know what was going on? Like
Mhm.
you know that if you hit her with facts and evidence, she's a scribe at heart. Like she's gonna trust it.
Yeah.
And he said, I never lied when I said I can't live without you. Violence and defenseless women have never been my type. Remember, he said, let's just get to Athabine. And basically, Taryn and Darna are like, you know, we didn't lie, we just didn't tell you everything. She's like, that's lying by omission, which I'm such a huge advocate for. Like, if you withhold information and then all of a sudden nowhere you want to change the narrative by suddenly telling the truth, you're a liar.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
you can own it. You know, you can be like, you know what, you're right, and I thought that was the right decision at the time, but clearly it wasn't, and that sucks.
Yeah.
My bad. But it's like the people who are like, oh, I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything. And it's like, okay, but not telling somebody everything destroys relationships. And
Mhm.
it causes the other person to think that they're working and making moves off of a narrative that isn't even the big picture. And that pisses me off. And so I don't blame her for not like messing with her after that.
Yeah.
Or messing with him after that. Because it's like
Yeah.
she
But you
trusted you and
did.
you know that she's smart.
Yeah.
And you withheld this information and you as her dragons lied too?
Man, fuck all y'all.
No, literally though.
Mhm.
Fake. Fake. Fake as hell. So then it said one generation. So then it basically, she's like thinking about stuff, and she's like 400 years of tomes and not a single one, 400 years, but our history spans over six. Everything is a copy of earlier work. So now we find out the history spans over 600 years, but we only have 400 years worth of information. So then she says that the original scrolls from unification are over 600 years ago, but it only takes one desperate generation to change history, even erase it. Hmm. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's a little
Hmm.
too relevant.
So they end up at this outpost and it's empty. And something just seems super weird. They're like, I don't think we're at a war game. This is really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way, like, infantry and other riders should be here. Like, this is really silly. And Zayden's like, what did Dane say to you before we left? He leaned in and whispered something. She was like, I don't remember. He said something like, I'll miss you, Violet. And his body goes tense. He said I was going to get you killed. Yes, but he always says that. What would Dane have to do with emptying an entire outpost? And Garrett goes and finds something, and Zayden goes, "Did Atos touch you after I told you about Athabine?" And he goes, "What?" And she goes like this. His his power requires touching someone's face. Did he touch you like this? Yes, well, that's how he always touches me. He would never. I would know if he read my memories. And he goes, "No violence. Trust me, you wouldn't." So this is basically when he comes clean about, and it makes her connect the dots, that it says Dane read my memories without my permission
Mm-hmm.
and betrayed us all. And so then Zayden finds a letter that says War Games for Zayden Ryerson, wing leader of Fourth Wing, and it's from Colonel Atos, which is Dane's dad. And he says, it says our only mission is to survive if we can. We've been sent here to die. Damn.
Um, from there, it basically they're trying to figure out what's going on. Um, it says the letter says this is a test of your command. You have the choice of abandoning the village of our enemy or abandoning command of your wing. They're testing our loyalty without actually saying it. Um, if we leave now, we'll make it to the new location of headquarters in order to finish war games. But if we leave, the trading post and its occupants will be destroyed by Venom. Um, so they realize that the Venom are there. They're about to go like actually into battle. Um, Gryphons have appeared. Um, and then they decide that they're gonna go and try to save the village. Um, There's a bunch of Wyvern, which I think do show up. Uh, Violet says at
Yeah,
least they're
the wyvern are the Venon's dragons.
yeah. Fables say Venom created them to compete with dragons, and instead of channeling from them, channel power into them. Um, so they join up with the Gryphon Riders, whatever. Um, we have dragons. Yeah, and it's basically them against. Isn't it literally just a handful of Venom? I think.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just a handful, but Zayden basically says like it could only take two of them to take down like a whole city. Like they're
mm,
extremely powerful.
mm-hmm.
And she essentially says we live as cowards or die as riders.
Yeah. They all decide that like they're in on trying to save the city and defeat the Venom. Um, and this is like obviously the big climax of the story. They all fight. Um, Violet is trying to like channel and aim her actual lightning power, which isn't going very well. Um,
Oh,
Go ahead.
one thing I want to mention is that she basically, like, when Liam steps forward to, like, as they're all volunteering before the fight like really begins, um Liam says, we watched as our parents were executed because they had the courage to do the right thing. I'd like to think my death would be just as honorable. And she goes, my chest tightens. Their parents died to expose the truth, while mine sacrificed my brother to keep this heinous secret. And then it jumps down and she says, as for mom, the dagger on her desk means she knows and has done nothing to stop it. Guess I'll be the second child she sacrifices to keep the existence of Venom a secret. And then I basically put a note that says, I think she's already assuming that Brennan knew and did the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Um, there's more than one wyvern.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. Oh, there's some sort of like relic or something that's in a tower that they realize the Venom are trying to get to. And so they realize that that's what they have to like go and protect and like stop them from getting. Um, the one of the Venom hits Liam's dragon. Um, as well as somebody else's dragon. So they both go down. Um, there are more wyvern than dragons at one point. Um, don't they realize that they're like the wyvern are connected? So I think if they take one out, they take all of them out.
The Venom can, from what my understanding is, the Venom can wield power and like create more than one wyvern. So if one taking down one Venom can take down multiple wyvern.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Um. Yeah. There's just a lot of fighting.
One
Um.
thing that she notices is that the Venom don't like when she wields lightning.
Mhm.
So that's when she starts to do it more often. And of course they're flying as they're doing all this. And then she yells that Liam needs help.
Mhm. Um. Oh, Liam's. It's Liam's dragon that gets hit, right? But that's if the dragon dies, then the rider bonded to it dies.
I think so.
So they die. Um, R.I.P. Liam. Pour one out.
No,
My
don't
boy,
say
my
that.
son, my son.
I'm not gonna lie to you. When I read this book and Liam died, I cried. Bro, I was so
That's
pissed.
fair.
I don't
Yeah.
even cry at books like that. And I was like, Liam
Mhm.
was a loyal friend. We're gonna kill him like that.
Uh
I
huh.
was so upset.
Uh huh.
I was so upset.
Same. I
I was
think,
pissed.
I do think that death hit me like the hardest out of every other death in the book.
And it's the fact that the damn dragon died and that's how he dies. This is fake.
Mhm.
Rachel said she also cried. I'm glad I'm not alone.
Rip.
Literally on the page that he died, I wrote, oh, my bad. I wrote,
No.
no.
um.
Oh, then this is where he talks about his sister. So we end up finding out that, or we end up getting reminded that he has the sister.
Oh yeah. So he's got a
And
sister.
it's alluded that she's gonna show up the next year, and he was waiting to like reunite with her because he hadn't seen her in a really long time.
Mhm.
And that doesn't end up get to happen. And she says, "Thank you, Liam. Thank you for being my shadow, and thank you for being my friend." And he was like, "It's been my honor." I'm gonna literally cry.
Oh my
I'm too
god.
emotional in this state right now.
Um. Avenin lands on Tarn. Violet unbuckles herself from her saddle. They
Mm-hmm.
fight on Dragonback. Violet gets hurt, but continues to fight. Um, they end up defeat. She ends up finally being able to channel lightning. And Darna chimes in with her like time stopping, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're able to do that, and then they defeat the Venom, and then Violet like passes out, falls off Taryn's back, and then she wakes up, and then you realize that they won the little battle. Um, she's been poisoned.
I like the
Um,
part where she says, "I think I might die today," instead of "I will not die today."
yeah, that's that. Oh, that's actually a good callback. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, she comes in and out of consciousness. She hears them like trying to save her. She doesn't know how long it's been since she has like passed out. Um, there's still poison running through her. Um,
Oh yeah, then as she hears and all these
mm,
going ins and outs, she hears Zayden talking to her, and Zayden still hasn't told her that he loves her. Like he's just like, you can't. Oh, but then he admits, like he's like, you can't make me fall for you and then die.
yeah.
Like none of this is worth it without you.
Mhm.
And she said, he sounds so sincere, I almost believe him, which is exactly how I got what got me into the situation in the first place. Zayden, a familiar voice calls out, but
Mhm.
I can't place it. Liam is dead, and Zayden says, you have to save her.
Yeah. And
So
then
then the last words of Fenn Ryerson redacted from something is, you're all cowards. And it cuts to Zayden's point of view at the very end.
mhm. Mhm. Um yeah. Zayden's been keeping
So,
like vigil on her, trying
mm-hmm,
to, keep an eye on her. Sigal is trying to comfort him. Taryn is trying to comfort him. We had he admits to the reader that he's in love with her, that he fell for her. Um she can't die because I know I can't live without her even if I do. Somewhere between the shock of our attraction at the top of the turret to realizing she risked her own life by giving up a boot for someone else on the parapet, I wavered. Um, when she smiled at me after mastering her shield in mere minutes, her face lighting up as the snow fell around us, I fucking fell. We hadn't even kissed, and I fell. And then he's like, I never told her. Um, she wakes up.
so he like regrets lying to her, and he regrets hiding things from her. He was like, I've like utterly betrayed her.
Mm-hmm.
She might not trust me, and like kind of like you said, like I never got the chance to tell her that I loved her.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah. He realizes. She wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then she's got a little bit of like amnesia, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He tells her that she's miraculous and that he was terrified he was going to lose her. She says she's fine. You aren't going to lose me. She gives me a puzzled look, smiling like I've said something peculiar. Then she leans in and kisses me. She still wants me. The revelation makes my heart fucking sore. I take the kiss deeper, swiping my tongue over her lip. They kiss even though she's in a hospital bed. He goes, I'll make it up to you. She said, make what up to me? And then he goes, well, how much do you remember? By the time we got you here, the poison had spread to your brain. And then everything kind of comes rushing back into her. Um, and she's like, she hates them again, wants to know where they are, what's going on. Um, and then realizes that Aracia, which you said is where Zayden's from,
I
um,
think so.
had been burned to the ground, but they've been rebuilding, which is something
Mm-hmm.
that's been kept hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we're not hidden, we're just not advertising our existence. Um,
That's when she finds out the Melgren can't see the outcome of stuff when more than three of the rebellion people
mhm,
are together, and that's why they're not allowed to assemble. So it's nothing to do with anything they were doing. It's because he can't see and control them.
right.
And he was like, "Oh, like she's so freaking smart. I'm like obsessed with her."
Mhm.
She
Um,
asks about Liam being dead, and he says yes.
mhm. They have more conversation. She kicks him out, wakes up a little bit more. He says, I never lied to you. I never will. Um, she goes, it's not even that you kept it from me. It's the ease that you did it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she goes, I love her. Of course I love her. But if I tell her now, she'll think I'm saying it for all the wrong reasons. And honestly, she would be right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then he does tell her that he fell for her. It goes, somebody knocks. I ignore it. Um, he says, you know what? You might not trust me anymore, but you still love me. I, um, come on, leave me alone. Stupid cat. Oh my god. Basically, she kind of sort of admits that she might like be willing to, rediscuss her feelings for him. And then you can take the final part over with the big plot twist.
Oh shit.
Go on, go.
So as he's like trying to talk to her and like get to some kind of conclusion, there's another insistent knock at this door, and he's like, geez, like this dude's impatient. Like, and he says, you have about 20 questions, 20 seconds to ask a question if I know him. She blinks. I'm still hoping that missive at Athabine was really about war games. Do you think there's a chance we just happen to end up in the middle of a wyvern attack at that outpost? And then all you hear is, that definitely wasn't an accident, little sister, he says from the doorway. I sigh and I move to the side, watching Violet's eyes widen as she sees him standing in the doorway. Told you I knew poison masters, I tell her softly. You weren't healed, you were mended. Brennan? She stares at her brother in open mouthed shock. Brennan just grins and opens his arms. Welcome to the revolution, Violet.
Okay, and that's Fourth Wing, which was a lot longer than I realized it was gonna be. That ending, that did take me by surprise.
The way I think I took a whole week to process the ending of this book.
I think I texted you when I was like, "Oh my god, Brennan!" You were like, "Yeah, dude."
Because I literally remember being like, just get through it because the ending. Just get through it because the
Yeah,
ending. And you
yeah.
were like,
I was like,
no,
I
are you sure? And I
guess.
was like, trust me. And you were like, Brennan!
Brennan, what the fuck?
Brennan. Welcome to the Mofo Revolution, Violet. That's what he should have said. Oh, man. Yep. Yuppers.
I think we touched on quite a lot, even like throughout our like recap. I'm trying to see if there's anything.
I think the only thing we didn't emphasize was the disability rep that you have listed, which is that Violet has EDS probably, and that Yesenia is deaf. So they do mention in the book that she is signing. The diversity representation is mid.
Yeah.
Rhiannon's gay. And Rydok is Hispanic, and Zayden's mixed, I think, is what it's kind of assumed to be.
Isn't Rhiannon also black?
Oh, she might be. Yeah, I think you're right.
But like that's it as far as we know.
Yeah, as far as like we're specifically told, I feel like when I imagine Imogen, I imagine somebody who's like Middle Eastern. And then I don't know if there's anything else. I think the only thing I didn't touch upon was like, I do really love the fact that like it's like the military environment with like the banter and the relationships and the bonds built. And just like the actual like feel good fantasy, and like kind of like with her background with like the military and stuff. I think that I just like identified with a lot. Like when like people reading this was like, oh, like nobody becomes like friends that fast, and I'm like, yes, you do. I've taken 2-week courses, and I like still talk to those people.
Yeah.
About stuff I don't even talk to like other people about that I've known for longer.
Yeah.
Like it's just different level bonds, and then for them like with like life or death bonds, it's just more serious. And then we talked about the other stuff, and then I think the only thing that I said the stuff that I loved and hated simultaneously, the horny teenage angst.
Yes.
But then I said it's classic young adult behavior, and I said, and to be honest, very classic soldier and cadet behavior, and I said, trust me.
Trust.
Source me. And my own experiences.
Yeet. Yeah, I think I have something similar where I'm like, Violet and Zayden could have used a little bit more development, but I didn't realize just how much of a slow build it was. But I do kind of wish that like it would have actually been used to develop their relationship beyond like the antagonistic to flirting over the same things, if that makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
that's also not specific to like Fourth Wing. Like that's a genre complaint at this point where it's like none of the characters or relationships ever feel fleshed out by the time it gets to the relationship part of this, or like the lovers part of enemies to lovers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is what it is. Um
Oh, our friend is back from last week. They said, I might have to pick up after listening.
oh,
It's not
hello.
bad. It's not bad. And welcome back.
If you've been here this entire time, holy shit. Hi.
I commend all 5 people who've consistently
Yes.
stayed on this. I think at one point we had like 9 or 10, but like
Mhm.
y'all are OGs.
And shout out to Rachel for like chatting consistently. That's wild. So
I
even the
love that though because I
mhm.
feel like it helps us
Yeah, it does.
with the
Yeah.
flow, but also like tangents.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Um yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's our 3.5 hour recap slash discussion of um Fourth Wing. Excuse me.
They said yes. I was listening while doing housework and cooking. You know what? That's so valid.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's so valid.
Yeah.
I guess before we wrap up today, our theories to keep track of as we go into Iron Flame next week, which
Mhm.
is the second book,
Mhm.
is our theory of, is Violet's dad alive?
Mhm.
Did her mom kill him? Does Zayden ever really hate her?
Hmm.
Which I think is pretty much proven to be no.
Yeah.
Cairn saying, I know who you are and what you are, Violet Sorningale. The theory of, was Violet's mom a Venin? Is she part Venin, like
Mhm.
Violet?
Mhm.
And the cover saying fly or die, which is a reference towards Gryphons and not dragons, because dragons have riders and Gryphons have flyers. Are there any other ones I'm missing?
I think that was it.
And I know that we already know like that the rebellion exists, but oh, I think the what is the reason behind 200 missing years of
Mm.
Navarre history?
Mhm.
We have 400 out of 600.
Perfect.
Okay. I
Cool.
think those are our theories so far. So if
Mhm.
anybody else watching has any, or if you guys find any online that we missed, I know there was a ton circulating for a long time,
Mhm.
and I stopped keeping up with them. But if you guys remember any, let us know,
Mhm.
and we'll keep them in mind as we talk. Whether or not we it gets proven in Iron Flame, and then eventually when we get to it, Onyx Storm, book number 3.
Mhm. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Thanks for hanging out with us on our stream. Um, a reminder that we're now streaming Thursdays, not Mondays. So we'll see you next Thursday for our Iron Flame discussion.
See you next
Yeah.
Thursday.
Thanks for
Ride
hanging
or
in there,
die,
you
baby.
guys. Ride or die. See you next week. Bye.
Oh man,